Have you ever had to sue a company for copying a product that you have? If so, why not?
You seem like you got some dirt. You're going somewhere.
Did you hear what I said? I guess.
Wait, no, you said why not?
Why not?
Okay. Oh, okay.
I approve waterboarding. They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
One-side air railings.
A new dimension.
All right. We are back. Another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. Today, we welcome on a very special guest, athlete, brand manager, foiler. What else should I say? What else can I hit you with?
Did you say wakeboarder?
I said athlete, wakeboarder.
Athlete. Yeah, I say that. I say athlete sometimes too, but it's a stretch at this point.
We'll say wakeboarder. All right, wakeboarder. Jeff McKee. Jeff, how's it going? I'm very excited to have you in. How you doing?
Good. Really good, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm stoked we're making it happen finally.
Yeah. How many times have you been to Orlando in the last 2 years and you've kind of ducked me?
I kind of sneak attack Orlando quite a bit. And I do a lot of like in and out, get something done, and I just like retreat home to Charleston.
Yeah.
So it's been overdue, but
we're here and we're excited.
Yeah.
And this is, I didn't know, this is home for you.
Yeah.
Or was home for you.
It's like a full circle. Like we're in Windermere, Florida right now, which I told you. I was like, I don't think you realize the freaking like the gold mine that you're sitting on. Like,
do not.
Lake Butler chain of lakes is like before cable like took off, when it was all boat wakeboarding, it was like Lake Butler chain of lakes was like the spot. Like all the pros lived on the other side of the lake, and I lived like across the street on a little lake called Lake Bessie. And I was like a little grom, and we would sneak over to Lake Butler and like see if we could see any of the pros riding, you know, or even we would even go. So beyond Butler is another lake called Lake Sawyer, and Sean Murray lived there with Dean Lavelle, and I think it was just maybe the two of them, and then maybe Josh Sanders came in at some point. There was kind of like a revolving door of pros there. Yeah. But my best buddy, who actually like their family taught me to wakeboard, his uncle lived on that lake. So we'd go sit on the dock on Lake Sawyer at his uncle's house. And like, if we were lucky, we'd see the boat out there. And like one day we were sitting on the dock and we saw Darren Shapiro wakeboarding, and he hit a double up like way off in the distance. And all we could see was like spray flying. And we're like, we look at each other, we're like 13 or something. We're like, dude, I think that was a double flip. We had never seen it before. Like we only would know when something happened, like if it was in the magazine, you know?
Yeah.
So every magazine that came out, like a whole new thing you'd be like, oh my God, everything's changed. Like this is what's happening now. But like we caught a speedball in real life. Like we were like, what in the world, you know? So it was like
so cool.
The craziest, coolest thing. But yeah, I mean, I grew up here, learned to wakeboard, actually on this Butler chain of lakes. And then like, that's all we did. So it's funny.
I guess for those who aren't familiar, it's 13 lakes that are connected here or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's a chain of 13
lakes. And it's
lakes.
a ton. They're big lakes. So it's
big lakes.
A lot of people
Beautiful
on the water.
Lakes, like super clear, like amazing water. And now it's like surrounded by like there's no chance a wakeboarder could get even. I mean, it's amazing.
I'm not on the lake for the listeners. I'm not on the lake. I am near the lake.
Hunter has a great situation with a good friend who lives across the lake.
Yes, I can see the lake.
But even just being able to see the lake is like a slam dunk.
Yeah, very, very thankful.
So it's pretty cool
to be here for sure. Yeah. But yeah, that was a little. I guess I feel like I think of you as a Carolina guy now. But
it's happening quick.
The roots.
Sometimes I still tell people like, where are you from? I'm like, well, I'm from Charleston, or I live in Charleston, but I grew up in Florida, but it's, you know, I mean, I've been there for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And like, I got a big truck. I listen to country music. And
that could be Florida too. It depends where.
My pants are from Tractor Supply. I was like, dang man, they got some good stuff here, you know? So it's like, I don't know. The country's creeping in on me, but I like it. It's pretty good. So
okay, well, we usually do open up with a couple quick questions. Number one, favorite grab?
Probably, honestly, is probably a melon, like a poked melon.
Okay.
And probably just because this is the easiest one for me to still do every time now. Like I'm in town now doing a photo shoot with Nautique, and they're like, okay, go out and, you know, make it look good. And I'm like, okay, melon poke front three. Like that's my, you know, it feels cool to just poke it and then wait as long as you can, especially if you get like a huge pop.
Yeah.
And then just literally, you know, I mean, I think this way in my mind. It doesn't look this way, but I'm like, poke it, hold it as long as you can, and then the last second, like when you feel you're falling, then like 360 out of it is probably one of my favorite.
Okay, so with the 360, that's kind of the
yeah. Actually, I have a really hard time doing just the melon. It ends up always going front side no matter what. But
muscle memory action going.
But I love it. It's a good trick, and like Shane used to do some sick ones. There's a ton, like Trevor Maurer probably. You know, I see him do some sneaky, pretty incredible melons, and I don't know. Everybody wants to say the method. But
we'll talk about the method later because I want to pick your brain on some methodology, I guess you could say. But
okay.
Second question: Wake pants. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, you're in.
I've been in wakeboarding long enough to learn that like everything will come around again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the first time they were out, it was like a laugh, like a no way, like that's total. You know. That like when like they made pants that were intended for wakeboarding, it was like, no way, not cool.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you fast forward 15 or 20 years and, you know, guys like the Space Mob and all these like cool, trendy, you know, people that didn't know the first round of wake pants, all of a sudden are like grabbing like these ones here from the thrift store and making them, you know, like, and then I don't know, I'm just always like let the cool kids kind of lead the way and, you know, be like, all right, well, if all I got to do is put on some pants and then, you know,
say no more.
Actually, well, like your last episode, Dylan was saying that he's like, dude, if I can do a front board and some board pants and I'm scoring new points for like being cool, like,
and I'm looking good, like, all right, let's go.
Like at this point, I'll take all the help I can get. So I'm like, if some pants will make we'll make this work, let's roll with it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one, and yeah.
But that being said, I don't own any. So
well, I also was thinking now that you said yes, have I ever seen you in a pair? I don't.
No,
think so.
I don't.
I've seen you in jorts for sure. Some cut off jorts.
Yeah.
Well, Alex Graydon style.
Yeah, there's been all sorts of trends.
That one was not a great one.
That was the wake skaters. That came from the wake skaters, and then like Graydon was doing it, and then it was like jorts, like freaking tight jorts, and like a long shirt and. There's been all sorts of
There's been some eras, but that's what makes it cool. I don't know. It's kind of cool to look back and see all these different, like, and you had the loud color era with like the loud color board shorts.
Oh yeah,
pink yellow vests,
and then it was like freaking. You know, I mean, I look back at like half of the things I did on a wakeboard, and I'm like, God, my wakeboard was way too small, and my stance was way too wide. It was like, what did we? You know,
it was all about extremes. It felt like, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just interesting to look back on,
but it's cool now. It's cool to see for sure.
Yeah.
So. Who knows what'll be next? It might be totally out in another year.
You're right. I think stances are already starting to widen a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Simon was kind of doing it.
Simon's
doing it.
Joe
Battle Days all the way out.
He's all the way, and he makes it look good. It
looks so good.
Yeah, it's like it's funny how certain people can get away with it, and certain you know.
Yeah.
But even like I remember we did a photo shoot for Slingshot like 20. I don't even know that it was the first year that Ollie Derome had a pro model.
Yeah.
We went to the Florida Keys and we took Dylan Miller with us, and he was like pretty fresh on the team. And I remember I didn't really notice it like while we were doing the shoot, but we got all the photos back, and we had a rail that like a bunch of the kite guys down there helped us set up, or they had like for kiting. And he was doing these backlifts up this rail, and I was like driving the boat, and then we got all the photos back, and I was like looking through them, and I think Jason Lee was the photographer, and I was like, man, these photos are all like crap. I'm like, his stance is so narrow. How did I not notice? Like, you know, it was literally like, shit, we can't use this. Like, it doesn't look cool. He's like, he's standing real tall and his stance is too narrow. And we were like, you know, and then I looked at like Ollie and I'm like, oh yeah, look at that wide stance and those long boards.
Well, he's all of like what, 4 feet tall too. Dylan's not tall, but like this very different.
It was so like Dylan definitely blazed a path, I feel like, for us, you know, and it's just funny. Yeah. Now, since like things like that, or I'm just like never rule anything out.
You can't.
You know?
You never
know. Or even like
happen.
going back to Graydon, I remember one time he sent a bunch of photos in to us, and it was like right when everybody was getting ripped apart. Maybe it was probably by Wake Zeech at that time, but everybody's getting ripped apart about their grabs, and he sent me one, and it was like, you know, I thought it was nuclear. I've never like grabbed that way. I can't or never really put
Yeah,
the effort
sure.
into, because I never really thought it. Just for me, I was like, I'm not into it.
Especially when boards are small too, it's way harder. But.
Yeah, but he was sending these in, and I was like, dude, these are all cool, but I don't like. Are you sure? And he's like, oh no, I think it was a Japan instead of a Nuke, or there was some. He had an answer that was like smarter than me on it, and I was like, that's fine. Like, I don't know if we're ready for it, and then of course, like, all that stuff started taking off too. So.
Dylan on the front lines out here,
Dude,
in more ways than one.
Dylan was definitely leading the pack. So, but yeah, I think the biggest thing I've learned is like never say never on, or like you can have a hard stance in your mind, but be careful how loud you voice it.
Because how you feel is not how everybody else feels.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is like make it like plant your feet in the ground and then be wrong, realize everybody goes that way, and you're like,
now you're playing catch up.
Yeah. So
interesting. All right.
Yeah.
That's a good little topic on there. But let's let's dive into a guest question from Ollie Derome.
All right.
And this is going to kick off
Straight
something
straight
off the bat. But we'll circle back on some of the points he has. But I just want to kind of, he's got a fiery one, so I want to.
Okay.
What's up, Hunter? What's up, Jeff? What's up, Grab Matters Nation? Jeff, I got a good question for you. Do you think Slingshot would still be in the boat game if they had originally signed Derome and Steele Lafferty? Looking forward to this answer and the rest of your podcast. I hope you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not no softballs today, Jeff.
I love it.
So yeah,
that's okay. Yeah. So before I get into that too, I wanted to say, well, it'll come up at some point, but I've listened. I may be the biggest fan of Grab Matters. I've listened.
You do call me frequently. He is not lying here.
But I've just listened to every minute of every one.
Yeah.
And there was a
Mike
point.
and Nolan says they can't all be that good.
Well, no, dude, they're great. They've gotten a lot. I mean, to be honest, I'm a little bummed they've gotten shorter. Like, I like when I don't know, when I'm cutting the grass or doing a chore at the house, I'm like, dude, I need 4 hours.
You know, when they get long, that's when the good stories are getting kicked.
Yeah, like on the bomb hole one, it was Travis Rice was like 4 hours or 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, we're in for a ride.
But then I was like, dude, it took me a couple of days, but
every time you click it, it's like,
I loved it. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not dodging this one.
No. I'm not going to dodge this one at all. So, and the reason I said that I've listened to every minute of every was to bring up the point that I know in Ollie's podcast, he talked a bit about his relationship with Slingshot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, fair, and I love Ollie. I've been hanging out like at boat shows and stuff. We've hung out since. But it was kind of tough. Like, so what he's kind of like unveiling there is like almost how he got in with Slingshot. So there was a time, let's see, maybe we signed him. It's funny, I already mentioned when we signed him. It was like around maybe 2013 or something. But originally we were trying to sign, we had new boards. They were called the ballistic, I think now we have the ballistic base, but it was like the ballistic board line. And we had another guy that was helping manage the team, and his name was Wade, and then he was helping me. So we were like team managing together. But at that time he took a lot of control of the budget and kind of, I was still riding pretty competitive, or not competitively, but I was just like taking it serious and traveling a bunch. I was married. I had, young kids. And so he was like helping a lot.
He was kind of steering the ship a little bit.
Yeah. So anyways, it's got me nervous now.
I told you we're coming out the gate firing,
I started nervous because it's like, man, there could be some heaters in here that like, and now I just signed an NDA with you too. So there's a lot on the line here.
You did say you're going to bring that up. You did say you do sign something before you come on the pod for the most part. So.
Yeah. So,
Oh, we're going 2 sips of water. Jeff McKee is nervous on the pod right now. But, all right. So Ollie.
I love you for this, Ollie, by the way.
This is it.
And I
thought you would.
And I did want to like address, because I felt bad like the way things kind of ended with him and Slingshot. But basically what happened was we made those boards, And the company was like, hey, we need to get, we got these boards. Like it's a new, they were like carbon core mixed with wood. And, it was just like an exciting thing to like, we got to attack the boat world.
Yeah.
So the guy Wade and I kind of worked on ideas, and the company was being aggressive about it. And so we were like, all right, well, we need the top dogs. Like, if you really want to like make it happen, like let's go get Raph and Steele was the other one. It was like those two guys at that time were like the up and coming like superstars on the boat, So we approached them both. I think there was a bunch of boat shows that maybe Wade was at a boat show with Raph and Ollie together. So he took them out to dinner and like pitched the whole idea and the contract. Maybe Raph was on Ronix at the time, or they both were on Ronix.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to help me because you're like a dictionary for wakeboarding now.
Well, it was right at this
like.
point. So, yeah.
So basically, I think Raph was looking to go somewhere. So we made an offer, got pretty like, friendly maybe with both of them, Raph and Ollie. And then ultimately in the end, I think Raph decided against it. And as I said, I wasn't fully like a team manager at that point. And so Wade made the decision because Ollie was like, well, this sounds great. I'd love to be involved, but they'd kind of already laid out the cards of like what we have to offer and the contract and all that. And so Ollie got a killer deal, and it lasted for a while. And then ultimately that guy Wade ended up moving on, and I took over like the team manager position. And of course, anytime there's a change, the company's like, hey,
this is an opportunity too.
We got a problem with the budget here, and you got to fix it.
Yeah.
So I'm like all hyped. I'm like, yes, here's my chance to like step up. And then at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, now we're looking at like basically one of my best friends. Like, Ollie and I traveled, we filmed Lipsmack, we did all that stuff together. And then it was like, you got to break the news to him that like, we can't keep this contract going, So it was tough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got me like heart pounding.
Well, that's a heavy one. Yeah.
It was heavy, man. Cause I care like all these guys, and girls, like I care so much about them and working with them. And it's like, it's a weird position because you're like, okay, hire these people. Some of them are your great friends, and then it's like the shelf life is so short,
Yeah. And it's such a blurry line between you're working here, we're best friends.
Yeah.
It's like,
hey, you're on the team.
I'm the guy that's
let's
gonna make the
travel
call.
everywhere. And I'm almost now, I'm like, when I like hire people, I'm like, hey, just so you know, like I'm probably going to be the guy that's going to have to fire you too.
Yeah.
Which is rough.
Which at the end of the day, everybody still knows that, right? But it's, when it happens,
they know
it's
it, but it's
different
just terrible,
ballgame,
and it's like, I can remember every single, like every rider I've called to say like, hey, we got to move on and start making the plan. Like I can remember where I was, like, like just everything about it. Cause it's a big moment and it like changes somebody's life, or it feels like it can.
Well, it's the yin and the yang, right? Because when you bring them on, that's like the best day of their life. And then when you...
Yeah, you got to... So, but I tell people it's like, wakeboarding feels like the NFL, but without all the money. It's like you got like a 4-year stretch of like complete on top of your game. And then suddenly the next guys are on your feet or on your tail. And then it's like, the cycle just keeps moving.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms there. Because like, did you build a big enough name in those 4 years that over the next 4 years you're still going to keep the relevancy and all that stuff? It's a whole weird formula. That's a good way to put it though.
Well,
NFL, but
and it's because you're wearing an NFL
Green Bay
shirt.
sucks.
So, anyways, but luckily, I felt Ollie's case was probably one of the ones that I felt the worst about. And like we were together at a boat show in Charlotte, maybe 2 years ago. And it was like such a like relief to like, we hung out, we went to the bar together. We ended up like, we're just sitting like having drinks and hanging out. And it was just like like a sigh of relief.
Yeah,
like
you
we're
just breathe
good.
out.
Yeah, we're good, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of wild.
What about Steele? Anything happened with Steele? Because he was on Ronix, then he was kind of on Liquid for a little bit, but he didn't have a board sponsor forever.
That was what it was. It was right in the time when he didn't really have a sponsor.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't really remember how it went. I think I was in touch more with steel. Like it was like maybe Wade was kind of dealing with Raph because he was like, or pitching to Raph and I was pitching to steel. And but I almost think at one point it was like, well, if he's in, I'm in, you know?
Interesting, yeah.
But I don't know. But I guess the answer to the question, like,
That's true. Yeah,
who knows? I'm sorry. I'm like, got a lot to unpack.
There's a lot of good stories there, though.
I think, I don't know. It's hard. When Slingshot started, we were immediately branded a cable brand. People were like, oh yeah, those boards are cool, but they're for the cable. And they were the first boards that flex. So they were like snowboards, right? Yeah. And it was like, at the time we were like, oh man, I wish they would stop saying that because like I was a boat wakeboarder. I wasn't a cable wakeboarder, and I was the first team rider for him. So it was like, and then the next team rider for him after. Well, I shouldn't say I was the first. Colin Wright was the very first team rider for Slingshot, and but he was like kind of toying with it, and then he just moved on and got out of it like real quick. Yeah. So like he kind of didn't
really stick.
Yeah, he was there like at the birth of Slingshot, and then I think he recommended me, and I got was like stoked to get involved because I was just graduating college, and I was like, dude, I gotta either get a real job or I need an opportunity somewhere, in some way, and then Slingshot called, and I was like, well. It's like, this is a serious roll of the dice because it was a kiteboard brand calling me to be like, hey, would you be interested in like riding our wakeboards and trying to help us like, navigate into the whole space? And I was like, yeah, I don't have another offer. So I didn't tell them that. But I was
leverage
like,
this at all.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's freaking go for it. And thank goodness, like, it worked. But, yeah, it was like we were a cable brand, and at that time, and the cable was not booming yet. It was still like all boat,
Yeah.
And so then we're like, shoot, we got to chase boat, right? And then that ultimately didn't work, right? But then all the like tables started turning, and like all the signs were pointing towards cable soon after that, anyway. So we were like, this is just like why fight something that's naturally like working in your favor? Yeah. And then you fast forward like 10 years or whatever into Slingshot, and it's like cable is the thing, and every brand told all their customers at boat shows, you're like, oh yeah, those are good, but they're cable boards. This is like all the other brands did the marketing for us. They basically said we were the best cable brand. So we're like, well, let's be the best cable brand and stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. But it didn't pan out that way, and maybe it was for the best,
And we'll dive into that a little bit later. I want to dive into Sling a little bit more. Obviously, your involvement with them over the years and how that's changed. But before we do that, let's back it up because we did run through. You're from around here, but let's kind of just the early days of Jeff McKee getting into wakeboarding.
Yeah,
what's that look like?
I lived right here in town, and I have an older brother who kind of got me into it. So he's up on this poster right here, this blindside poster, which is a major throwback and pretty cool. I remember when Bobby gave this to you in the show, I was like, dude, I have that poster in my office right now, And actually a funny thing about that poster that I don't even tell me if you've noticed, there's something funny about the picture of my brother.
Which one's your brother?
He's up on the top right. He's doing a KGB off the double up, and he's missing the handle entirely. I did
not notice that.
They like put that poster out.
Got me fooled.
We were at the pro wakeboard tours and all that back in the day, like signing these posters, and somebody's like, Bill, you're dropping the handle. What's going on here?
Osmosis KGB,
So yeah, he did not make it on that one.
That's good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but that's him up there, and then he kind of. I don't know. He was my big bro, man. He was 2 years older than me. We both played baseball growing up. And then we just got to a point where it was like too hot, man. We were like sitting here in Orlando on the baseball field, just cooking. And, we were like, we lived on a lake, but my parents weren't really like water sport, or they weren't water sport people really at all. But my dad wanted to live on a lake and like go fishing and stuff, So, but our neighbors were skiers. And those kids, or their kids, my best friend growing up, and his brother Daniel and Tommy, they pretty much like got us into it. So their dad was on the lake skiing every day, and I think he came home with I think it was a pink version of the Scurfer, and they were like giving it hell behind the boat. And I think we watched them for a day, and they were so like hell bent on figuring it out, but like. So I don't even think we took a turn that day, but then we came over to Butler with another friend and like sat on the beach, and we were going behind so we did like a beach start on like a hyperlight directional, like old like Shapiro board or something. And it was like probably a 15-foot boat with a 20 horsepower motor. It was like the kids' fishing boat, you know? And we rode behind little fishing boats for like a couple years, I felt like. And we had like a point system. It was like, oh yeah, dude, if you do. And actually, this is kind of funny. Our one buddy came up with the move where you dunk the nose, but then you bring it back out and recover, like you're riding, and then you do what do you call it now? It's a scoop or a
Well, there's a
shovel or something.
There's a nose shovel, is what a lot of people call it. And there was a whole debate on who invented this, or who was the first one to do it.
This was I think it was our friend named Curry that lived around here. Was like Curry Smith, I think was his name.
Curry Smith.
But we were on the little Lund. It was like a 14-foot Lund fishing boat. And funny now, Caro, formerly Upois is how you say her last name.
Thank you.
But now Caro Minor, I think, is her maiden name. Now it's her new name. Now that she's married.
Married, having a kid too.
Yeah, congrats. It's pretty awesome. She's the marketing person for Lund now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I saw that. Like she was at a boat show wearing a Lund hat, and I was like, that's what I learned to wakeboard behind.
That's pretty sick.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, we would go out and we'd ride behind that boat, and we'd tie I think we had the V thing, so it would, at first we were tying to the corners, and then we got too heavy to where like the boat was really struggling.
Oh, yeah.
So then we got the V deal or whatever to get around the outboard. And I remember my brother sometimes like I prematurely learned to drive a boat like out of my brother's need to have a driver. Like I remember at one point like crying in this boat, like probably 12 years old. And he's like, sit down, twist the thing, and like, quit being a baby and just go. And I was like in this boat, like freaking out, crying, like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. But we gave it hell behind that boat until it wouldn't pull us up anymore. And then we upgraded to like a Sea Ray that my dad bought. We used to just dump the water into the hull of the boat to like make it heavier. And then we ended up, it had a wood floor. So we just dump it on the floor, and it would like eventually get down into like the bilge, but it was an outboard motor. So it didn't matter that the actual boat was full of water. So we would just like sink it as much as we could. I think I learned that was the first boat I learned to flip on. I think I did a tantrum. Okay. And then we got like a proper ski boat, a 1987 Ski Nautique. And that was, for us, like the dream boat at the time. Yeah. We're like, we got a ski boat. So we had a little it was called a lightning rod tower that would fit, or pole, not a Skylon. Skylon was like 8 foot. Like they used to pride themselves on being really tall. But it would like pull, the boats are so narrow, it would pull them over entirely. So we got the lightning rod, which some random guy built it. And it was cool. Like it was nice and polished, but he was like the underdog brand. And for whatever reason, he only made his like 5 feet, and it fit perfectly under we had a really tall bimini top, and it fit right under it. So
that's sleek.
Dude, it was sick. Like it was really cool looking. And then we upgraded boats. We moved that pole over and I feel like our boat was like so noticeable, because even the next boat had the same deal. Like the bimini was right over top of it. It looked so cool. And then we ended up ruining it. At some point, Nautique was like, we got a tower for you. You guys want it? And we couldn't resist. We're like, yeah, let's do it. We got a free tower from Nautique, and we freaking bolted it onto the boat. Like we were all hands on. Like my dad was like, everything that we had to do with the boat, we would do ourselves. Yeah. And like we could change the starter. We could we'd do the battery. The starter used to be on the bottom of the motor in like all these boats, and we didn't have a lift, so we'd beach it, and they would always flood. Like if you didn't check it every day, if you went out
Oh,
of
to
town,
just like overnight, you would just beach it?
dude. Yeah, we would just beach it.
Oh.
So it would already be like tail heavy, and then you'd look out and you'd be like, it's looking real heavy back there, and then it was just like all the time. It's like you knew it was happening. You're like, dude, we're too late. We're gonna have to replace the starter. But anyways, we ended up putting that tower on that boat, and it was cool because towers were brand new, but the boat lost like its kind of original charm or look,
Well, it sounds sleek with it just going right.
It was cool, and it was kind of the perfect amount. You didn't need it was like kind of debatable whether you got much more benefit with the rope being higher. You know, it was like as long as you're somewhere in that head high zone,
down, aggressively, yeah.
So, anyways, but
okay, I was reading a wakeboarding magazine interview with you, and this was a long time ago. But it mentioned that you listed off your sponsors, and you were a kid at this point. But you mentioned that Lightning Rod was one of your sponsors.
Dude, he was like he was early. I don't remember the guy's name, but that was like we gotta make sure we give this guy a shout out because that pole is like a game changer for us.
Yeah.
And actually, the other coolest thing about it was it didn't have any cables. So it didn't have like a Skylon had this ugly cable
looking,
that went and like wrapped around the nose.
Yeah.
This was like complete freestanding.
Really?
So actually, that's why it was shorter because it didn't have any cables.
Yeah.
So it looked like especially awesome.
Yeah.
I
could see it.
Yeah, it was cool.
I got a couple other sponsors I just want you to talk about, I guess. Reef, obviously. That was a kind of an easy one. Everybody knows Reef. What's going off? You remember going off?
Going off.
There's no G in going.
It's got an apostrophe after the end. Yep. I remember the sticker.
You know what they made?
It's not clearly popping out to me what they made. I think it was like bags, maybe like board bags.
Was it? I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. What are you you're probably going to say G-bolts coming up?
I was going to say G-bolts, yeah.
G-bolts was a great one, dude. Like these are things that people you're like, why in the world would you need that? But the boots used to be so crappy. The metal that they made would immediately like curve it. Like the boots would have more rocker than your board would, but like, from toe to heel on the plate. So G-bolts was making just like hardware to mount your boots, and they were like anodized. Is that like when you call it, it's metal, but it was like different cool colors and stuff. And then they made the G plate, I think was the name of it. And it was like about 3 inches long and the shape of your boot so that it was like another layer of like reinforcement to try and like keep your boots from bending. So.
Well, that's a good sponsor to have. That was a good hook up there.
That was a funny one.
Are we you getting money from G-bolts, or are you just getting some product?
No, it's all product. Yeah.
What about what's True Aims? Remember that?
Fins. That was a fin company.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
Man. We had to bring some of this back. You had fucking G-bolts.
There was a lot more.
Sponsors,
dude, it used to be like the board brand only made the board, and then it was like Wiley's boots or Badass boots, or like there was everything was like, or there was another. What was the other one called that was like this crazy one from way back that somebody listening is gonna know this and be screaming it right now, but they were like they had ratchets and stuff on them way back, like they maybe Sub-Zero,
like
maybe
snowboard style. Okay,
it was like some of the West Coast guys rode them.
Yeah, I can
if
see
I'm
that.
thinking clearly, but there was a lot of brands. It was crazy.
Yeah,
before the internet was around, people thought that they were like, well, there's maybe millions of people doing this sport. We got to get into it.
Naivety there.
but yeah, essentially like all the board brands ended up making everything.
Yeah.
And then all these other brands just kind of,
they're like, there's something.
Yeah. But Rainbow Fins was the top dog, and then True Aims was like just as good, but like not as recognizable.
The Aldi version.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, they were the Aldis.
That's core. That's core to stay on.
But they're still like the full, fiberglass, like maybe.
True Aims, I guess. I'm thinking about it. Makes sense.
Didn't you have
True Aims straight?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, actually, I didn't even ever think of that either. I was like, I don't know, they're cool fins, and the guy wants to sponsor us, so we're in. We're trying to get we wanted our boards to look like race cars, man. Like we wanted stickers. I
don't want to see that top sheet.
Everywhere.
Stickers, dude.
So that's funny.
Let's talk blindside then. So like, how did that whole situation happen?
Yeah, they were. I think my first board sponsor was maybe Liquid Force, like through a rep, but Blindside was, they were the first real deal. Like they gave me a contract, and it was sweet.
What are we talking?
Oh man,
what are we talking, Jeff? You talk about the blind side. They're not even in business anymore, you know?
I know. It was glory days back then, dude. It was so actually.
And was Billy on?
Billy was on.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Bill. So this guy
is
in
it
the
2-for-1
poster, Charlie Patterson, in the top left, was the
he signed it too.
Yeah, he signed that poster. So this guy was like our like mentor. When we were 13, 14, he was probably 24, you know. He was a pro. Like he was the real deal.
Yeah.
He drove a Corvette, dude, and lived on the lake, and he had a girlfriend that was like worked at the strip club. And you know, you're like, "Whoa, being a pro wakeboarder is like insane."
Yeah, professional athlete out here.
It's like, dude, my dad's trying to get a Corvette, and this guy's already got one. So it was, but he helped us get on the blind side, and it happened right. Like it was basically my first real contract.
Yeah.
It was right when I won the Boys World Championship, like, or maybe I got on the blind side, and then that year I won the Worlds in 1998.
You think if Danny Harf didn't break his arm, you would have won?
Yeah, So there's an asterisk on my title.
Whoa! There's no asterisk.
There's
on
actually
that.
2 asterisks on it. There was that year the Worlds. I was like never a great competitor, but I competed against a lot of like, you know, guys that turned out to be like Shane.
Well, you think of the big names back then?
Shane, Danny Harf, like those guys, Trevor Hansen. I think Trevor talked about competing back in the day. So we were all like this little, you know, we were all the same age competing. And that particular Worlds was like, it was in Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, I think. And the lake was like connected to a river, and they had some crazy rainstorm before we got there. So it had like pulled all this like driftwood off the shorelines into the lake. And then it was still like crazy windy. Philip Sovin was the other one. Froggy is what we used to call him.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then he didn't like that name anymore, so everybody had to stop using that name.
That's when you got to keep going.
But I kept going with it. Yeah. So, but he was like coming up strong. It was like him and Danny Harf were the top dogs right then in the boys division. And like I had the talent, but I just always would like I got nervous with that ollie question. Like that's how nervous I would feel on the dock. I'd be like, oh my God. I was like, I don't even know. Do I usually breathe in when I'm cutting in? Or like all the things you could do to psych yourself out, like I would do them.
You didn't need anybody else to get in your head.
Yeah.
You took care of that.
Yeah, I was in my own head way too much. And like that's I was just never much of a good competitor because of it. But that particular event, it was too windy the first day. Like Froggy was still too light. Like he couldn't keep hanging on to the rope because he didn't literally have enough body mass. And so the first day's run was like, I maybe did like a back roll on the way down and a scarecrow on the way back. And it was like, you're into the next round.
Let's go.
And then, but yeah, Danny wasn't actually even there because he had broke his arm.
Yeah.
So it was like me and Froggy, and maybe there was a kid named Brian, I can't think of his last name. Brian and Evan, they were brothers, and competed against them. I think maybe JD was even younger, but like there was still a competitive field. But like my main worry, because Danny wasn't there, was Froggy. Yeah. And then basically like he couldn't pull it off because it was too windy, and there was like logs that you were dodging and stuff.
Sounds fun to me.
So that was like the qualifier or whatever to get into the final, and then the final was much better, but you were still dodging debris. But I landed a crow mobe in the contest.
Oh, that's sealed.
Dude,
seal it.
Oh, it's sealed. I did a roll to blind and then crow mobe, and there was a video at some point somewhere, and I would never been more stoked in my life to land I might have even fallen. I think I maybe fell my first trick and then landed all the rest of both passes, and I like ended it with a crow mobe, hit the water, like grabbed that handle, was like the hardest fist bump, like yeah. So it was pretty cool. It was like, for me, just because I didn't, I wasn't usually delivering contest results, and that happened. And like me and my dad had taken like a special trip for it. I don't even think my brother went because maybe he didn't qualify for the Worlds. So it was big. That's
a big moment.
It was
Jeff
awesome,
McKee's career right
there. It was
there.
awesome. And
something you build a whole career out of. You kind of hang your hat on that one.
Yeah. I mean, once world champion, always a world champion.
They can't take that away from you.
Yeah, you don't have to go into all the details.
Well, they don't ask how. They ask how many. You got one.
Yeah.
You know?
And the funniest is like, so my my father-in-law, like, he still introduces me. Oh, this is my son-in-law, Jeff. He's a world champion wakeboarder. And I'm like, oh, here we go, you know?
So when was that, Jeff?
So yeah, I'm like, let's move on to the next topic here. But it was
before
cool.
electricity, actually.
Yeah, it's cool to have an accomplishment like that.
All right. So, I mean, we do have a lot to get to, so I do want to keep it moving a little bit. But I'm curious on when you kind of started making a living off wakeboarding. Because you mentioned, I mean, obviously you're riding with your brother on the lake here. You're getting some sponsors, but probably nothing big payment-wise. You're going to college. Like, and then you have that Slingshot deal. Like, at what point, I guess, is it like, okay, we're doing it now?
I probably right when I got out of college,
Okay.
like literally the year when I was in college and before college, I was making some decent money. Like there was a point where, you know, I mean, I was like 16 or something and making like almost $2,000 a month on like, you know,
Just adding up from all these other things.
being a kid, like with freaking all these random little photo incentive deals and like, you know, like it was cool, you know, and all my friends were like getting jobs at the grocery store. And we were like, I mean, we had zero expenses. So me and my brother were like, dude, we're like, you know, we're saving money. And my dad was he's retired now, but he's a like financial planner for Wells Fargo. So he was really helpful with like, all right,
That's the guy you need
all right,
there.
boys, like, you know, let's not like go buy the fancy car and let's not do the stupid things. Like, let's, you know, invest. You know, he taught us to like invest and do all that, which was rad.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was lucky enough to like have a little bit to, you know, to coast through like college and stuff like that. But once it was over, it was like, you know, like college being over, I'm like, we had 4 years to get in and out. And then my parents were like, you're paying, you know, any day over 4 years is on you. So we got it done, you know, both my brother and I. And, but I had that point where I was like, I was making money, but not enough.
Yeah.
And so, and I was riding for Gator boards at the time that like almost right before I graduated. And then, like I said, and then actually Alliance came. So Alliance started in college, or maybe right when I graduated. Alliance wanted me to be the associate editor of the magazine. And then Slingshot called soon after, which was kind of a combo of like Colin Wright giving reference and then Bill from Alliance. I think Slingshot reached out to Alliance like, hey, we're looking to get into it. What do you suggest like for a plan, like athletes and all that? So like Alliance helped me get that deal. So it was like I graduated school and I was like, oh man, now I
Kind of came together pretty quickly.
I kind of got 2 jobs now, you know. It was like doing stuff with Alliance, and then Slingshot was like, you know, want me to be pretty involved. So I got super lucky there, you know.
Okay. I guess I'm interested on the pro career a little bit because so like what does that job with them portray? Because obviously you're writing, but like what are you doing with Alliance as an editor?
Yeah, I was the associate editor, and part of that came, I think, mostly because Garrett Cortese had moved into my place. Maybe he moved down to work with Alliance and didn't have a place to live. I was still in college. Maybe I was like a sophomore or something, and I had a room for rent, and he came down, and we hit it off pretty quick. Like we were doing a photo shoot for something, and Tony Smith, who worked for Alliance, was like, hey, I'm going to send my new guy out there, Garrett, to do the shoot. And so I think we shot together in Lake Virginia behind Rollins College where I went to school. I think we did a photo shoot out there for the first time, and then we like, you know, kind of all just hit it off. I don't remember. I think maybe it was him and me and Rob Jakes or something like that. But we were kind of hitting it off, and he's like, yeah, I'm just sleeping on Tony's couch. I don't have a place to live. I just moved down here. And like, he had literally kind of just scored his dream job of working for the magazine. And I was like, well, dude, we got an extra room. And like, I was actually renting the house from my dad, but he's like, hey, we'll give you this much like towards rent because you're a student, but you got to kind of come up with the rest through like finding roommates. So Garrett moved in pretty quick. And it just naturally was like, you know, they needed more help. And they had a really funny, I don't think I ever did as good of a job as the guys before me. Like the guys before me was like Chase Hevner and like Travis Dopp, Chris Hevner, Thomas Harrell. Like those guys would all do freaking like hilarious articles in the magazine. Like the funny, like they'd fill up fat sacks with water and see how far they'd go before they.
I told Trevor to bring that one back.
Dude,
that's
it was
genius
it
marketing.
was so good. And they put it up on the roof and like rolled it off the roof, and they have like sequences of this fat sack that's like half the size of this room probably hitting the ground and didn't pop. Like it was they did all sorts of funny stuff. Probably the funniest one was like they had a wake skate instructional on hitting the pink box, and they had painted little, yeah. It's exactly what you think it was, but they had this hilarious just instructional of like they painted a whole like little, 10-foot box and put it on 2 tubes behind the boat, and they were wake skating behind, like jumping the wake and trying to slide the pink box across the wake. But their instructional was like
very much so exactly what it would sound like.
Freaking hilarious. So I was like, man, these guys are too funny. So there's a little bit of pressure when I got involved.
You got something to live up to.
I was like, man, I don't know if that's a lot of pressure, but I don't know, through living with Garrett, I think we came up with some fun stuff, and we had a good time with it. It was rad. But man, it sucked. Working for a magazine, it was like every time you turned in your article, they're like, the deadline for the next article is like Thursday, and you're like, dude, I just finished the last one, and I don't.
You're telling me, man. Every time I edit a podcast, it's like, damn, you got another one you got to do.
You know it, yeah.
Speaking of which, though,
it's never over. The job's never over.
It's never over, but that's the fun part.
Yeah.
We got a guest question from Garrett Cortese.
All right, nice.
What's up, dudes? It's Garrett. Jeffro. I hope the podcast interview is going well. Knowing you, I'm sure it is, and I can't wait to give it a listen. But I'm going to throw a couple questions out there and see what you come back with. First of all, considering you were like getting in the mags when you were like 12 and you've been a pro for the majority of your life, I want to know why it took so long to learn a Rayleigh. So go ahead and give us some insight into that. And number 2, all the first thing that came to mind for me was all the funny dustpan articles that you did for Alliance back in the day. A lot of those came when we were living together, and I mean, there was some serious comedy. And so I just want to pick your brain a little bit and hear some stories about funny ones that really stand out, or some stories behind them, if you have like one favorite one. Obviously there's the eat 7 cheeseburgers and spin a 7. There's the wake skate jousting, which I thought was underrated, and I feel like we could still do. There was the doubles contest, the boat covering contest, the boat trailer reverse contest, all that stupid, hilarious stuff. So, tell some stories about that, and enjoy the pod. I'm looking forward to listening to it. Later, dudes.
Yeah, you kind of touched on some of the articles, but maybe there's some there that. But we got to hit on the Rayleigh.
Yeah, the Rayleigh. I was scared to do a Rayleigh for forever. And the reason was our buddy Tommy, who we grew up wakeboarding with, like he was the king of like going full send. Like
everybody has that kid.
Yeah,
there's always
like,
that kid.
He was like that. I want to be good, and I'm gonna get good really fast. So like, there's no time to be scared. And dude, he I remember him like just freaking breaking boards and getting knocked out, and just like he went through hell on Rayleighs. Like he would kick it too hard and too soon, and just get smoked. Like we pulled him out of the water one time where he was like fully out. And we took him back to my parents' house, and he did try to Rayleigh and just got smoked. We took him back to my parents on the back porch, and he didn't like. He's like, "Where am I? Like what?
Full
what?
KO.
I just woke up. What are we doing? And he's like, I had a dream that we were wakeboarding, and we were like, dude, you just got destroyed on a Rayleigh, and we had to pull you out of the water. Like it was scared the crap out of me seeing it. So I was like, man, I don't know if that trick's really.
That was not for me.
I just copped out. I was like, no, it's not really my style. I'm more of a free rider.
That's like some of those cats with air tricks these days.
Yeah, dude.
It's not my style.
There's always a cop out. There's always something to say other than the real truth, which is
look cool.
Which is I'm too scared, or it's too hard of work to do that. So I'm gonna come up with a shitty excuse. But so I did not Rayleigh for a long time, and then finally we were on a trip for when Alliance was filming the series for Fuel TV Pole.
Oh yeah. Was this the Iowa City trip?
No, that was a cool one. But we were in Portland or Washington or something, and Matt Staker was part of the new crew, and then became with Chase and them, and then later became like, I was intimidated by those guys. They were the coolest guys in wakeboarding, and then like I was so stoked like to kind of become their friends over time as they like kind of, you know, pass the baton of being pro wakeboarders down to like the next generation. Like, but there was a point where you were like, dude, if I say something stupid or do something stupid in front of Chase or Matt, like I might be laughed out of this industry. Like you're like,
It's serious.
you're like, I want to be friends with those guys, but I'm scared, man.
Yeah.
Like they, you know, and like Thomas Harrell had like always, even Chase, like they all show up with like pink hair, and like Thomas, I think, had like crazy weird piercings and just everything about them. You're like, man, those guys are way cooler than we are. But anyway, so Staker was the one who ultimately got me to do a Rayleigh. He had kind of moved up into being a filmer, or like a production guy for Alliance, and helped make that show. And so we were on a trip, and he's really good at like putting pressure on people. And basically there was no way out. He's like, you're telling me you've been wakeboarding for how many years and you haven't done a Rayleigh? He's like, get out there and do it right now. And then there was like literally no more question. He's like, we're not, you know, I'm not even to film you until you do a Rayleigh.
Yeah.
And so I gripped it and ripped it, man. And it was not pretty. And then every now and then it's actually really fun. Like I haven't put the effort in to get good at it ever, but like when Murray does one, that looks fun as hell, dude. He's flying.
Yeah.
But every time I do it, it's like gets whipped out kind of crooked, and it's just like you're just pulling it off, you know?
Yeah. You're kind of muscling it around to get it out.
Yeah. I remember one demo I did for Nautique up somewhere in the Northeast, and had like a boat full of kids, and I'm like out there riding, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of crushing it. This is like going really well. And then there's just always one kid in the boat who's like, hey man, can you do the Rayleigh? I'm like, dang it.
I can.
Once they say it, it's like,
you're in a corner.
All right, here we go.
You can't say no.
Yeah, so occasionally they've been busted out. It's been a long time now, but it's a cool trick.
It's good for the abs, is what the kids said.
Yeah. That's what Jimmy's podcast. He said he lost his abs when he quit wakeboarding.
No more Raleighs. Dave AV, the drone filmer, and wakeboarder.
He does them just for the abs,
just
right?
for the abs.
Yeah. Actually, there was so really cool at the projects when the System 2 came out. They set one up out there, like just to get people hyped on how it worked. Like they had that Red Bull contest in Orlando that Ollie won. Wake Lab, Red Bull Wake Lab.
Yeah.
It was the first time.
At night, right?
Yeah, at night in downtown, there was people everywhere. And it was the first time we saw a System 2. And we were literally watching it. And it was like one of those moments like when a new magazine came out and you're like, dude, everything's changed. There's all these new tricks. And like Byerly cut his hair and now he's got more tattoos. And like this, like everything was different every issue. And you're like, oh my God, we got to catch up. We're way behind. And the Wake Lab was one of those things where it was like, oh my God, like wakeboarding is on another level now. And like, look at this thing that's pulling them. It's like, how in the world do you even turn around?
Yeah.
So we all went to the projects because Pat took it from Lake Eola to the projects. And like all the wakeboarders were in line to just like, I want to see if I can do the turn.
Yeah.
So there wasn't even
kind of
obstacles.
makes sense. It's like, how do you even get,
like,
if it
how's this
stops
work?
and goes back and you stay in the water? How does that work?
It was sick, but they set it up there and then they started doing the Indian line and we all learned like S-bends and like, I remember being out there
Cheat code unlocked,
with Dallas Friday and we were just whipping around corners doing S-bends. Like, it's like, all you had to really do is hang on and edge. It was fun as hell, but I remember going home that day. I was like, dude, I think I ripped all of my abs. Like,
they're no joke. Their tricks are no joke.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think it's time to dive into the LF'n Wheel of Questions presented by Liquid Force.
The LF'n Wheel of Questions.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
So if you can, go ahead and grab that sucker down here. So Liquid Force likes to make wakeboarding fun. So let's make this podcast a little bit more fun. Spin the LF'n Wheel of Questions.
All right.
So we got a couple classics on there, and then we got, some new ones as well. We got Steal a Trick, Most Underrated Rider, Hot Take, Preferred Method Style, which we can dive into whether or not it lands on that, and then T2B Estimator.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, go ahead and give that sucker a spin. When you're ready.
Couple of these I'm unprepared
Oh, there's
for.
a hot take on there too.
I'm gonna feel this a little bit because everybody talks about
Well, your
it.
buddy Chase Hefner,
Yeah, he had
went
problems,
6 for 6
huh?
or whatever. Yeah,
All right, here we go.
the odds were 1 in 264.
Oh fuck! This is the only one that
What is it?
hot take.
Oh, hot take. What do you got?
I don't really know.
Come on, Jeff. You got something. You got something. You got something. You gotta have something. You gotta have something.
What was Dylan's hot take the other day? I feel like it reminded me of something.
He might have had a couple. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember what it was though.
Oh my gosh. I don't know, man. I think I'd be blowing it if I was just making one up.
You
for
can't
no
make one up. That's
reason.
true. That's true.
I don't want to just make one up, but I feel like I used to have hotter takes, but now I just feel like it's too hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of explained earlier, right? Where it's like you never say
can
never.
never say
Everything
never,
could
yeah.
be, but
That's fair. If you ain't got a hot take,
I don't know.
I'll let the people judge you on that one.
You know what? I'll bet you there'll be a hot take that'll come to my mind through
Okay.
this.
I'll make a note here.
Okay, make a note and I'll call it out when it comes to me.
Because I have one too, and I'll back
and
you up.
yours
on that
might tee
when I
one
do
up
it.
for me.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Should I do this again?
Give it
So
another
let's
spin.
get
And if
something.
it lands a hot take, just move to the next
We'll
one.
find a hot
That's a
take.
better spin anyways.
That was better. Glide method or straight up method?
I really want to pick your brain on this one.
Okay.
I don't know how tuned in you are with the different kind of methods, but I know your style method.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what your
Well-
preference is.
I mean, they're freaking hard. So,
Boat methods or wakeboarding methods, I'll just say.
yeah, I tried a couple today. I got one or two good ones, couple real shit ones.
That's typical.
Man,
That's how that goes.
it never ends. It never gets easier, but it's so good when you get it kicked out right.
Mhm.
I like when the boat gets like borderline like too slow, like when the wake's like peaking and you got to give it hell just to get across.
Yeah.
But you get such a good kick off the
Upwards
wakes, and
kick,
it
yeah.
helps you like swing it around. Sometimes if you're going a little fast or the wakes doesn't have a whole lot of punch to it, it's really hard to like make it good. But I'm thinking about like a glide method would be like the first person that comes to mind is Sam Brown. Does he do kind of glidey method or maybe a toe side glidey? I mean, Harley used to do them.
Harley used to do them. There's a lot. Most boat riders, I think, do the glidey ones.
Yeah.
Where it's like a turn down and they're like gliding through it.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Dylan Miller method or like the method
Yeah.
you did, where it's like a straight up in between the boots,
Yeah.
turning over.
You know who had probably the best method was Jeff House. If you look at Jeff House wakeboard videos on the internet and find a method, that was a damn good method.
His name does come up a lot. When it comes to the method.
He was really good. It's got to be straight up.
I agree.
I feel like it's a little
straight up.
cheater to like lean.
It's kind of cheater.
You know, JD Webb had a really good method.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
Can you switch method?
Can I?
Yeah.
No.
Have you tried?
I cannot do switch barely anything.
See, here's a take. Here's maybe a hot take. You don't need to ride switch because what's the point?
Yeah, that was my motto coming up, dude. I was like, no, that's way fucking harder. Why would I? It's backwards.
It'll look great when I do it regularly.
I am the most left foot forward person like of all time, at least on a boat. On a cable, I feel pretty good switch.
Yeah, you can do anything switch
But-
on cable, you know.
I mean, here's a hot take. Cable wakeboarding is way fucking easier than boat wakeboarding.
Is that hot though?
I don't know.
It might be. I don't know.
I wakeboarded behind the boat today. It is, I mean, I can go ride the cable for hours.
I think it's easier for a variety of reasons.
It's just, I mean, you go on the boat and it's like, whoa, it is fast. It's fast. It's windy. I'm out here by myself.
Pole's
it's
way lower.
Loud. The pole's different, and I got fins on, and like, there's a lot of things in boat wakeboarding that have to be like perfect for you to like flow. Whereas I feel like on a cable,
you show up no matter what, dude.
It's pretty much always awesome.
Yeah.
And whether you're doing like flips or hitting kickers or just board sliding, it's a blast.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's never scary.
I'll
I
give
felt
you
the
that one.
boat, I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
It's never scary.
That's scary. There are times when it's scary.
Yeah. Have you ridden the 2.0 at Valdosta? I would get scared.
Yeah,
on that
actually,
unit,
no,
dude.
I don't really ride
There's
that.
some rails I would get scared on that unit for sure. You can scare yourself on the cable.
There's more land than water at the Valdosta system
Puddles,
too.
yeah, you're puddle jumping over
I remember
there.
when they shipped, man, when we did a photo shoot there in like 2015 with Quinn, and Quinn was like fighting to come up and be a wakeboarder, and we were like, who's this guy from Georgia that keeps showing up to the like Orlando cable? But he was persistent and he was super cool and super nice. And I was like, man, we ought to like check this out. And we went up to his cable, and it was when it was at the front.
Yeah,
That
it's the
tiny
2.0.
looks too small to even be a cable up front, but it was they had a massive wall built in there, all sorts of stuff. We went and did a photo shoot there, and he took me to the back. Maybe this was like year 2 or something, but he took me to the back. He's like, yeah, man, we're going to build a full-size cable back here. And you're just like, the condition the whole place was in back there, you're like, yeah, right. And then I remember going and seeing when the construction started, and I was like, oh my God.
Oh, you're doing it.
They're pulling it off. But at that time I was like, whoa, dude, this guy's put his freaking money where his mouth is, and he's proven it. This is sick. But I remember him pointing out the system too, and I was like, is it done? And he's like, yeah, that's everything's dug. It's ready. And I was like, really? I was like, where's the water supposed to go? It just looks like a couple hills, you know? So, but it's
Gotta respect the vision,
dude.
It's aged well too.
That's an exact one of those moments where you're like, don't ever like count it out, because that
it
turned
changed
into
wakeboarding.
the coolest place in wakeboarding right now. So
that's interesting.
yeah, but I keep going
That's a good one.
in different directions.
No, this is
here.
perfect.
But Garrett asked about those contests.
Yeah,
And probably the one that I've been talking about lately, when we did them for the Dustpan, was the name of the article with Alliance. There was one that was there was the boat trailering challenge, was fun. You drive it in reverse through a course, and I rigged that one, set it up, and I won. So, you know,
was there a cash prize for that?
No, there's never
Just glory.
Yeah, it was glory. Maybe there was. We never. I don't think we ever really had a prize other than just like glory.
Bragging rights.
But we had some fun ones. But probably one of the wildest ones was we did a race. I had this idea. I was kind of one of those situations where like the deadline's coming up and I don't really have something, and this is probably the only thing we can realistically pull off. And we decided to do a wakeboard race across Lake Jessup, which Lake Jessup is the lake in Florida where they take all the nuisance alligators from more populated lakes, and they take them and dump them in that lake. So it's loaded with gators. It's connected to the St. John's, and there's a bar out there called the Black Hammock Gator Bar. And you go there and like you sit for 5 minutes and gators are just popping up everywhere on this lake. And we were like, you know what? We're all pro wakeboarders. We should be able to ride on top of that lake and be just fine. So it's like,
I love this.
We took 2 jet skis, Reed Hansen, of course, Reed
that would be
Hansen
the
was
number
involved.
one name, I would say.
Reed Hansen, Danny Hampson.
Of that one too.
I did it, and then I think maybe it was another Slingshot guy, Rob Jakes or Jeff House, or I feel terrible. I can't think of who the 4th was, but there was 2 teams, and I'm sorry, whoever it was that I can't. I think it was Rob Jakes. But dude, so we started this race out to an island in the middle, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't know, it's not that far. It's out there. And we're like 2-man teams, a wakeboarder and a wake skater. The wakeboarder goes out, rounds the island, comes back, and then you switch, and then the wake skater does it. And I had like a new Slingshot board that was like a test of a new core, and it was a little thin and turned out to be like too flexy for 40 miles an hour. And so I was in the wakeboarders went first. We both made it fine. But my board was like bending the wrong way entirely.
You
like
had a camera going on.
At 40 or 45 miles
You're seeing
an
the
hour.
nose come down.
Dude, I'm like, whoa, I might not be able to. And I was hanging on for dear life. Like, this was a bad idea. And I made it, got back to the shore. And like when I got on land, I couldn't even stand up. My back leg was so roasted. I was like falling like on my, like it was just like not connected to my body.
Yeah.
And made the transfer, and then Danny Hampson was on my team. He went next, and I started ripping him across, and he freaking fell in the middle of the lake. And it was like, I was like, dude, it's not deep, and it's just loaded. I think the stat, like if you look it up, it's something like 1,000 gators for every like mile of shoreline or something crazy, right? Like I went on a boat tour there one time and saw a gator eating another gator, like full size. I was like, dude, this is like the wild Amazon or something. So anyways, Danny falls and I'm like, oh my, like ripping back around, picked him up. But we just severely underestimated like how much we could take at such a high speed, and just the fact that it was so fast and like visually, on a clear day, you can see miles. So I don't really know how far the island was, but it was definitely, I was like halfway would have been fine. But there was no turning point, or there's no way to like change out in the middle without being on like a gator island or something.
Or something,
Yeah. So it was, that was a cool one that stood out.
That would have been a sick video.
And then dude, we did one, here's more, Ollie Derome love now. We did one, I think it was eat 3 cheeseburgers or eat something and land a 1080. We did
1080.
one. And frickin' Ollie landed a 1080, and I'm pretty sure JD Webb landed a 1080 too. At Rusty's house. Rusty hosted, and it was like...
Was it 10 burgers, 1080?
I can't remember.
That'd be
The
insane.
numbers of burgers got me... I don't remember that all clearly, but I'm sure we could find it somewhere.
Yeah.
But I actually filmed... We were like short a person that day, and maybe... Josh, my buddy from Alliance, he just lent me his VHX. I think it was the camera, the Panasonic.
Was it the HVX 200?
Yeah, that guy right there.
Yeah, best camera in the world.
So he lent me that, and he's like, you should be able to pull this off. And I was driving a jet ski with one hand, and I was filming with the camera.
There you go, Jeff in the cut. Okay.
And freaking Ollie stuck a 1080, and it was maybe his first one since he did the one in the contest.
Yeah.
That was his first one ever,
Yeah.
or something. And maybe it was JD's first one ever. One of them did it for the first time ever.
Kind of unlocking a superpower here with burgers.
It was sick, dude. Yeah, and I think they ate some burgers before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We tried to have fun, but I was like, whoa, this turned into something pretty badass.
Yeah, and that's not really what you expect to happen when you do that goofy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, and then the last one, I'll make this one quick,
you're
but
good.
we did a high jump contest. We built these PVC, like it looked like that game ladder ball that you see now, or they used to call it donkey balls.
Yeah. Did they change the name now?
Well, it's like officially marketed in stores. You see it as ladder
you build
ball.
it yourself so easy, yeah.
So we built a big version of that to do a high jump contest, and we towed it behind the boat, and we did it 2 different times. But the first time was with Trevor Hansen and a guy, Bo, from the wakeboard camp. And I did pretty well on a gator board. And then we did it again, and I invited Steele over, and we did it behind the G. And I was on a slingshot then, and dude, I hung with Steele all the way to the top bar. We were like neck and neck. And then I think Trevor was there again, maybe. But we never found a winner because the other guy broke it. So we got it was like, I think 8'6" was how high it was, up on top of the tube, on top of the wake.
Yeah.
So you're edging in at the wake, and you're like,
There's no way I'm getting
what
over
are we going to do? So, but dude, we got some ups. It was
That's
cool.
a good idea. I think some of that stuff's got to be brought back.
It was hard
Yeah,
to make.
it's-
I think Steele did it recently in his
He
Instagram,
did.
like
He's
maybe
like-
6 months ago or
like a
something. He kind of
series where
like
he-
brought it back.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good thing. Yeah, I like
yeah.
that stuff. We got one LF'n wild card from the crew at Liquid Force. And this is more of a, I guess not serious, but kind of pivoting a little bit. And they're wondering, what is the most difficult part of working behind the scenes at a brand in the industry?
Oh,
Yeah, changing gears there.
yeah. It's hard. You want to go out and have all the fun all the time. You want to say yes to every trip and do all that, right? But at the end of the day, somebody's got to like pull off the paperwork or the
Send the emails.
Yeah, you got to get things done. So there's a balance in that that's always kind of hard to manage. And it's easy to say like, hey, I am working. I'm out on the boat, or we're doing this. And, but even like being here, doing the podcast and doing a shoot for Nautique today, I'll be way behind. Like by Wednesday.
Well, it doesn't stop, right?
By Wednesday, I'll be like, oh, dude, So it's like, I know I had to do all that, and that was all great, good stuff. But it was like, you always pay for it no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, hey, I'm on vacation, don't bother me. It just keeps.
Well, it's gonna stack up.
It keeps stacking.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Work.
And probably that part that we talked about where it's like, I hire these athletes and they're my friends. And then at some point you have to have the honest conversation of like, hey, you know, it's time to pass the baton to the next one, you know?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
probably
both
it.
those being tough for sure.
But
all right. Well,
here's a fun fact actually about Liquid Force. Don Wallace is my brother's neighbor in San Diego, California. So my brother literally bought the house next door to Don.
oh, we're talking next door neighbor.
next door.
What's that show where the dude peeks his head over?
Is a Home Improvement?
Home Improvement,
With the
yeah,
neighbor
in
out.
Detroit,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
exactly what
That's what they're
happened
doing?
when I went out there. The only time I've been out there and like hung out with Don, we had beers over the fence. Like he was on for like probably an hour, and then finally it was like, dude, you just want to come around and come in the house?
He got so lost in it. It's just like
It was pretty fun.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it was good, but it's pretty funny.
small wakeboard world.
Yeah, I mean, the wakeboard world is real small, but they're good people, good crew. I mean,
Yeah.
Garrett now works with them a bunch, and Don is, I mean, that dude's just
Don's
awesome,
king, dude.
like authentic, cool, like just he's kind of a legend of his own.
He is,
sport.
dude, and I feel like it doesn't get touched on. But yeah,
Yeah.
Don's the man. All right, yeah, so we can go ahead and put the LF'n Wheeler questions back. So thank you to Liquid Force for that.
Yeah,
And I think before we kind of transition out of your, pro career, I got a Patreon question. So thank you to all the Patreon members. Your guys' support is what keeps this podcast going. So thank you for submitting questions. We got one from Chad Korecki. And he's asking, you filmed for the Epic Gator Boards team film Transgression and then left Gator Boards for new at the time Slingshot. And he's wondering what was the motivation behind that move. And you kind of touched on, graduating college and all that, but I wonder if there's anything else, going on between that switch.
Yeah. It was I wrote for Blindside, and then Blindside turned into Double Up wakeboards. Like the same company, like they bought Double Up basically. And then they kind of give us a choice then, you want to ride for Blindside or Double Up? And I was like, oh, Double Up, that's way cooler. Like Greg Nelson started that, and he was like, Colin Wright rode for them. So I rode for Double Up for a while. And then they had some deal go wrong, and basically we all kind of got canned. And then I switched over to Gator, which was just like a lucky chance, I mean, it was kind of like, hey, I need something, anything. And not to discredit Gator at all, it was awesome. I mean, that was cool too. It was like, dude, I'm riding for Gator boards. This is like Gator Lutgert, the legend wakeboarder. Like this guy's, he's that friend who's the wild card that will frickin' the sender, he's like, I don't care. I'll frickin' go 30 feet off this Double Up and see what happens.
Huge, man.
That guy was like full speed ahead on a wakeboard, on a tiny wakeboard too. So it was like on that squirt, the Liquid Force squirt. And then I think, you rode the squirt, and it was just like, dude, next level. So that was cool. It was really, I got to like do a trip with him and like shared a hotel room with him. I was like, whoa, this is crazy, but it was good. But I didn't like have enough opportunity there to like make it last beyond school, So it worked while I was in school, but once I graduated, it was like, you got to like be a big boy or like get out, and I just didn't have that opportunity with Gator, and Slingshot brought it. And I think they were like they're like, oh, maybe we could step it up. But it's weird to, when you have a new opportunity and then you have somebody like, well, we'll give you more to stay.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I think I need to go with the fresh option where they're doing it because they want to, not because like
somebody else,
not because they need to,
to do it. Yeah.
So yeah, but that was pretty cool riding for Gator and doing the film and Transgression. I remember doing on Lake Pickett and Randall Harris, which I always had a hard time. I'm surprised they just called him Randall there. He was Randy Harris, just like Froggy. Like it was Randy Harris. And then he like changed. It's like, no, it's Randall. And like everybody was like, yes, sir. Like, And I was like, I always had a hard time. I was like, oh, I'd rather not say his name than, I just can't I can't get it to roll off the tongue. But dude, the dude had a presence, and like that shoot on Lake Pickett, we all shot, and they had a helicopter because we didn't have drones back then. And like, I can't remember whose house we were like. It was just like we all were on the boat and we all rowed and shot, and then it was Randall's turn, and it was like cue the music. Here comes the lead singer of the band, like walking down the dock, and like helicopter comes flying by, and he starts riding, and everybody's like hanging on to the boat, because now we're going 26. And it's like, whoa, this is just everything on steroids,
Yeah.
It was like maximum like stimulation of all the senses, just being on the boat to watch him, He's like, we're all jumping like, here to here, and he's like here to like freaking woo all the way over. So yeah, you watch that and you're like, damn, I suck. Like we got, we're in different games.
It's a
completely.
different sport is what we're doing right here. Yeah.
But that was really cool getting to do something with him and be in that movie. Cause that movie had a sick soundtrack.
It did?
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So before you kind of move on from the pro career and get into a little bit more, behind the scenes stuff and how you transitioned, I want to talk about Lipsmack.
Okay.
Just one clip that you had, the double hump rail.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this rail?
My
was
idea.
It fun? Like run through
Nobody liked that idea. I was like, screw you guys. We're going to build this because I want to do it. But we made I think it was a triple hump. Or no, the double hump was at the projects. Mm-hmm. But I think at Shredtown we built a triple hump. And maybe I think we had to modify it. It started as 3, and it was way too aggressive. There's a clip in the opener of Lipsmack where Brian Reeder gets bucked off of it and smashes into it. And I think that was like the first hit on it after like nobody liked my idea anyways, and I forced them all to build it. Like I, forced them to join me and help me build it and do it. And then I'm pretty sure it was like Reeder wanted to hit it first, and he just got smoked, and everybody's like, see, I told you this was a terrible idea.
Jeff, you idiot.
But yeah, they were so bummed. And then I think we maybe modified, like changed the spacing of it, tweaked it. And really all I just wanted something that I could get a boot and do a flip off the rail. Cause that in my mind, I was like, oh, that would be cool. Nobody's done that. But at that time it was like, there was maybe a couple guys on the cable that had done it off like the Nessie at OW and took tons of like heat for it. They're like, that is not cool. But I still was like, no, I think I'd like to, like, it'd just be fun. And I think we're ready for like, something to change or get more interesting with the rails. So, and we were at Shredtown and they were doing like crazy
Next
interesting.
level
They were
stuff.
breaking all the rules anyway. So I was like, well, fuck it. Let's build this thing. And like people, be like a kind of a mind melter for them. So, and then we rebuilt it at the projects on the 100-foot rail and put a booter right off the end of it to flip off of it. So you go flat, 2 humps, and then kick off the end. And that was cool.
I think pretty fun, man.
It was
I'm not gonna lie.
super
just
fun,
flow
dude.
through them.
Yeah, it was like a rhythm section.
Yeah.
You could like pump it,
Yeah.
So that was fun. Actually, that was another cool clip in Lipsmack on that. I think it's purple in the movie with the double humps.
Yep.
Andrew from Shredtown gapped it. We were like, no way, that's too far. It was just too intense for us because he had to ollie on that rail, which is a pretty aggressive ollie behind a jet ski. So you had no help. You were like, probably had things working against you to get onto that rail. But that was probably one of the most impressive like sends. I was like, whoa, dude. Like, I didn't expect that. Like, he did crazy winch stuff, but like, when he was out of his element a little bit, he was typically like, he needed some time to like figure out or like kind of, to like figure out his move on it. And that was like, he just pulled out of his hat, like gapped it. I think he did like maybe a back 270 off of it. Like gap to back lip and then back 270 off.
Yeah.
But I still watch that clip. I'm like, damn, dude, Andrew kind of freaking.
I mean, that's heavy.
He showed us
Big
what's
gap.
up on that rail. Yeah. So,
All right. Speaking of Shredtown, we got a guest question from Davis Griffin.
nice, David.
All right, I'll make this question about me, I guess. In all the years of you visiting us in Shredtown, what was your favorite memory? And also, who was your favorite Shredtown member? Thank you.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well, 2-parter there from
Dude,
Davis.
they were amazing. That was a really cool era in wakeboarding. And Davis was all the personality. Davis was personality. in Shredtown. Chris was like the stunt man, and then Andrew was like the brains of the operation.
Wizard.
They were the perfect combo of like, Davis and Chris would just be like, okay, where do you want us to go? And what do you want us to hit? And Andrew would be like, no, we got to do this. And it's got to be perfect. And it was awesome them being removed from Florida because they could do all this stuff without anybody really knowing, so they could they could produce everything perfectly. They could build something that nobody would ever see. Cause like where their property was and where the cable they built was like just in the middle of nowhere, Texas. So it was like such a, I don't know, man. It was like the coolest freaking, I don't know, stage of cable wakeboarding out there that they were like, and it wasn't necessarily that they were always like they weren't always like, it wasn't like it was new tricks you were seeing. It was just new, like, oh my God, I didn't know that you could slide on pallets, or I didn't know that you could ride those, like the blue pipes.
And make the angles and go through the angles like that. Or stop on them.
The blue pipes with the bumps on them that like now Valdosta has that, like it's got the little like knuckle in the middle.
Which feels great, yeah.
But we were like, you can't slide that. It's not flat.
Yeah.
So like we were so close-minded. And when Shredtown came out, I was like, oh, damn it. Why didn't I think of that? Like everything they came out with, every wakeboarder was like borderline, like all the rail riders in Orlando, I feel like were like, oh, fuck these guys, But it was literally, they're thinking of all the cool shit that we couldn't think of.
Yeah.
And they're
doing
building a whole career out of it. And they're making us look bad because we're pros. And we should have done that, but who are these guys in Texas? And it was rad because they almost like decentralized wakeboarding, to where it's like, oh, actually, coolest shit's happening in Texas, not in Florida.
Yeah.
But they were awesome. They were all favorites in different ways, man. Like funny, so many funny like times with them. But favorite, probably
anything stick out?
Here's my favorite memory. So when we did the Jamboree contest, which was a big deal for them and me and Slingshot. It was like, dude, we were trying to like rebuild the Carnival cable contest that happened at the projects behind a jet ski, like way back at Byerly and Parks. And like that was the coolest thing in rail riding. And then we were like, dude, we need to like do that again. And we were lucky enough to like pull it off. Like they had the place. We always talked about bringing the pros to Shredtown and doing something cool. And Sean Dishman was a buddy of mine who ran a bunch of events, and I talked to him and Pat Panakos and was like, we want to do this, and we want to make the carnival again, but in Texas with Shredtown, these guys that are like shaking up the industry, and they like, Dishman was like, let's do it. And I think maybe there was the very first one. They got Rockstar to sponsor it. And so like, it was so rad to be able to like, oh my God, we're going to do this. We're going to pull it off. And so probably my favorite memory is that Jamboree event, because it was just like, there were so many amazing moments. Like it was like probably one of the best memories in wakeboarding for a lot of people, I think. But like that was the first time I saw wood on rails, like plywood. I was like, well, what are you going to slide on? And they're like, we're just going to wax the plywood. And I was like, you can't do that. That's not going to slide. And like, so like they opened my mind to so many things, but like they built this insane setup out there, and we invited all the plaque that you got on the wall here, which I have in my office. And I'm glad that you have that, because you know how they like, everybody on the podcast gives you a gift of some sort. I looked at it and I was like, nah, he can't have that. I'm not bringing that to Hunter. That's mine.
Joke's on you. I already got one. Quinn had me.
So I'm so glad. I was like, no, this is too special to me. But probably the best moment is the day all the riders arrived to the Jamboree. My job was to drive to the airport and pick them up in the Shredtown RV that was branded Shredtown. Pick up like 20 guys or something that all landed at the same time and bring them back. And Davis, Andrew, and Chris are like still painting rails and finishing, and we're like, dude, you got to get it ready. They're going to be here in 2 hours, And so I go to pick everybody up, and Andrew like never handled stress very well. Like when he got stressed, he would like start just shutting down, and he was this was the biggest undertaking that at the time he probably had ever had. And you could tell like he was struggling to stay with it. He was like welding. He learned to weld that year and was welding a bunch of rails. Chris and Davis were painting and like out in the water, like putting shit together. And I remember at one point Andrew was leaning over a rail before I left. He's like, dude, I'm going to fucking die. He's like, I'm dying. And I was like, and then he was like, I'm going to throw up. It was like just, everything was like, I was like, oh my God, the jamboree might kill Andrew. And I was just like, dude, you got to pull this off. I'm going to the airport. Just to like chill out for a minute and just make it happen. And they pulled it off, man. I got back. Everybody got out of that RV and saw Shred Town for the first time. The sun was like coming down. It was epic. Like Brett and Priestley, I remember being like him, Wes, Raph, like Henshaw, just all the cool guys were there. Parks was there, and we pulled up to Shred Town at like golden hour. Sun hitting all those rails. They were all done, painted perfectly.
Beautiful setup.
Oh my, dude. It was just like everybody's minds were like melting. And I was looking at Andrew and then it was like, we did it. Like they're here, you know, holy shit. Now we have to have a contest and figure out how to do that, you know? But that was like way too many good memories. And, you know, I mean, that'd be a fun video to watch again.
It looked like, I mean, from every aspect, the setup in terms of like technicality of the rails and like how it was forward thinking in terms of, all the setup, how it was painted. It made it look so nice. And like, private venue, all the riders like can truly just send what they want to do. And
nobody had to leave. All the food was, everything was just like, once you get to Shred Town, we're locking you in, and it's like 3 days of like the best time of your life.
When there was 2 cables, right? There was
they had a system over the drop. They were always, that was like literally what they made that's how they made an entrance into wakeboarding. What though was like that attention to detail on the rails. Like we'd build the rail and we're like, cool, it's done, let's hit it. And they're like, no, we gotta like add the metal siding to it, or we gotta paint it, or there was all these details that they put into it that just made it over the top awesome.
Well, it's like, how do you stand out against all these, like, the unit rails are all white for a reason, right? But like, if you want to stand out against all this stuff, like that's a very easy way.
Yeah.
Not easy, but a very obvious way to be like, we're going to paint this, make it look like brick.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sick. Yeah.
It's going to look sick.
All that stuff was amazing. Or even like, I remember a photo of Andrew sliding the shopping cart wheels. Yeah. There's another one. You're like, dude, he's just leaning back doing a 50-50. Any one of us could have done that, but nobody's as creative as they are. Like that was so man, they were probably in wakeboarding. I wish it was for longer. It was almost too short, but it's kind of rad how they came in and just like, boom, like they shook everything up, and then they're like, all right, we're out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man, they were sick.
That was a cool era. Hey, before you dive into more, I don't know when's a good time to do it, but everybody brings you a gift.
Yeah. We can do it now. All right, we're diving back in.
And we're officially diving back in, and I was looking around and all the cool stuff here, and I have something for you. So
Jeff McKee is grabbing something.
Yeah, hold
for
tight.
Me. Holding tight. Camera's rolling. It's big. It's bored.
Because people are going to just start giving you all their old shit.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what's going on, but that's fine. We'll just expand, you know.
Where do you
I mean, yeah.
This here?
Yeah, do it. What is it? Are you going to open it? What's going on? You got a knife?
Okay, I'll open it for you.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Because I know how I packed it, which is really crappy.
Well.
All right.
So for the listeners, it is a board. Well, I don't know. It's in a board.
And
cardboard size thing here. It's a directional unit.
It is.
Yeah, throw that sucker on the table.
The first ever directional wakeboard that Slingshot built with Space Mob.
For the listeners that didn't hear that, yeah, first ever directional. This is the first one, huh?
The first one, the first model year that we convinced Slingshot that we could make a directional wakeboard that was shaped kind of like a snowboard. It is asymmetrical. It's got an alien on it. Basically, it was the wildest thing that Wes and Quinn and the Space Mob could come up with. And they're like, can we please make this?
Well, this is where the directional whole thing kind of started.
And this is how the directional board started. And basically we were like, whether it sells or not, we want to make a really edgy, progressive wakeboard that just changes the standard entirely.
Yeah.
Like, let's go wakeboard and have fun. And I've had this one in my office because I was like, it was a cool kind of sign or you know, or a representation to me of like how cool Slingshot is. That like when we come up with an idea, we just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
We listen to the team riders when they're like, we want to make a board shaped like a freaking coffin or like this or that. And we're like, all right, let's try it. Because, you know, I mean, the worst thing that could happen is it doesn't work, but it'll probably work for winching or it'll work for something.
Yeah.
But it is fun. Like, you know, this was the original, maybe too aggressive that it was completely asymmetrical and everything, but it led to some really rad boards. Like we did the Space Raider maybe 3 years ago that was like a black and white one, and it was symmetrical but still directional.
Yeah.
And then like now we have the Space Melter, which is like the snowboard shape outline, and they're just fun. Like you get on it and you're like, this is a chance to I don't know. It just refreshes or resets your kind of brain on like going wakeboarding that
We're
day.
still on top of the water.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just going to go have fun carving and
Yeah.
cruising. And like, this is going to make everything feel different and like might unlock a new idea or something fun and different. But then like you watch like, you know, like what Quinn does on the Space Melter, like all these things that those guys do. It blows my mind. But you know, he's doing the full like scoops or what do you call them again? The shovel?
Shovel. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
the
should
shovel.
know.
I
You
should
were there
know
for the
this.
very first
I
one
know.
ever done.
I called it the nose scoop for 25 points.
Well,
that's what we were doing.
And that's what
But-
it is.
But yeah, it's just rad to like, you know, I don't know. I think that's what's made Slingshot cool over the years is just that like they trust in, you know, what the athletes want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's all the athlete wants is to be noticed and recognized for like having talent on the water, but like having cool ideas. Like they're living it and breathing it. And it's like, hey, let's not be scared to try crazy things or new out of the box ideas, you know? So yeah, I thought this would be a good addition.
This is awesome. Thank
good
you so
addition
much.
for
I
the
remember
wall.
this board, dude. I remember this thing, and I remember the fucking inserts on this. Was there an issue
The-
building this board because you have so many inserts?
Yeah, the spacing was a bitch to figure
Like that's
out.
got to be because I feel like that's I don't know.
I think there's with maybe it was like with the current or with the hardware at the time or something, there was maybe a couple stance options that you wanted to get to but couldn't. But you know, we basically were just like put them everywhere. So yeah, you can stand on it a lot of
It's
different
20,
ways.
20,
But
I believe.
this one I think is perfect for the office.
Yeah.
Just gonna totally
Well,
screw
that's
up.
some color.
It's gonna screw up your arrangement entirely.
Well, as you can tell, I was very methodical.
I don't know
about
how
putting
you're gonna-
everything in here. You know, it wasn't absolutely just thrown up on the walls.
But I mean,
nothing's crooked.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, what a cool alien
Oh,
resting
fine.
in the background. I've had this in the background of a lot of my Zoom calls at home, and sometimes I'm on with certain people, and I'm like, oh, this might be a little weird for them, you know?
This might be a little far. I mean, this is classic Alien though. Alien head. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
Yeah, that's a
this would
good.
be a
Thank
good-
you. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Let's,
no worries, man. So that's from the Slingshot
let's
crew.
just let's put it next to your board for now, if you can.
Yeah, no worries. We'll get her.
Have you ridden that thing, or is that unridden? It look. Oh, you have.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times. Oh, sorry.
Well, it's asymmetrical on both ends. So she's gonna be on. She's gonna be leaning.
Hey,
a
that
little
was
bit.
my favorite on the shop talk, like the episode with Gavin, and you guys asked him about the tip of the butter stick being like
he goes,
pointed, and he's like, "Well, what I notice most is when I lean it on the wall, it tips."
That's some insight into his brain right there.
That
I
was
can tell
so.
you.
I laughed out loud. I was like, "That's hilarious!" Like, there's
Of all the things,
there-
and he was talking about all this tech stuff too. about,
Yeah, he
like,
was-
all these-
yeah, he was,
the
like,
ollie and shit.
really crushing it on the tech, and
Yeah.
then he hit you like right when you weren't expecting it with like, "Well, it sucks because it makes it tilt when you lean it on the wall," which that one's doing right now because it's. I was gonna build a little shelf for this thing in my office, and I was like, I don't even know how. Like, I got to put the shelf
You're
crooked.
almost doing
or-
it a disservice, though. You know what I mean? Because it is.
Yeah, you don't
I
want to
don't
make
know,
it look
you know?
straight.
I
But
feel like I don't know. I'll find a good spot.
it's up to you. But
All right. Well, speaking of
it's
boards,
yours now.
we got a thank you very much for that. That's an amazing gift.
No
We got
worries.
a guest question from Chase Hevner.
Oh,
Speaking of boards,
nice.
so
Yo, Jeff, what up? It's Chase. Dude, super hyped to listen to this podcast. Man, you've had such a cool career.
and been doing action sports for such a long time. It's going to be really interesting to hear your perspective on just how things have changed over the last couple of decades, and all the progress that, you know, we've sort of made in action sports on the water, and just really interested to hear your perspective. So hyped to listen to it. I have a question. I know for me, I have boards that I look back on very nostalgically, and just boards that I love, and not necessarily wakeboards or foil boards, but just like any board, you know, like surfboards that just have sort of taken me places, or that have had incredible rides on. So my question for you is, when you look back at all the boards you've ridden, what is your favorite board of all times? And like I said, doesn't have to be a wakeboard, could be a snowboard, could be a foil board, I don't know. But what is your favorite board that you've ever ridden, and why?
Good question, Chase.
Nice. That's funny. Chase is it's funny to hear him, like, picture him recording that in
Definitely
his car.
driving.
Yeah.
It was a driving situation there.
That's awesome. Good question. Probably the one that stands. It's crazy because I've worked. There's like two complete separate like eras of boards in my mind. It's like everything pre-flex, you know, and then everything flex forward. You know what I mean? And I mean, I remember like the first boards with molded fins and stuff like that being interesting and cool. But the board that stood out the most to me was the first Slingshot that I was ever sent. It was a terrible graphic. The graphic was so bad on the year of Slingshot. I was like, wow, this is cool, but we got to work on these graphics, man. But they sent me a board. It was the recoil, and they're like, Jeff Lagosche, the CEO of Slingshot, had called me, given me the pitch to join. And he's like, let me send you the gear and like, just try it. And like, well, then let's talk again. And he's like, and it's going to be really different when you get it. So call me and so you can set it up and you get it right. And I'm like, dude, I know how to put a wakeboard together. I got this,
Buddy,
you know?
I know.
Yeah. But I was like, yeah, okay. Right on. So send it, you know? And he sent it, and it was like a light blue color. It was really thin at the time, like as thin as a kiteboard, because they were making kiteboards, and it was all like, you know, it had a sidewall on it, which no wakeboards had. So that was different. It had like kind of some like molding on the top deck, like different, like you could see like where the core ended, and then there was like a different material in the tip, and the tip was flexy as hell. Like you could grab it and like bend it, you know? But I unpacked it I didn't call Jeff. I was like, I got this. Unpacked it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But then I unpacked the boots, and I was like, oh my God, these boots are like, there was 4 screws in the board, like 4, there was side by side. We called it the 4-hole pattern. So just like a snowboard, it was like 4 inserts. And then you had to mount you pulled a liner out of the boot. So it was the first time I'd ever seen a boot with a removable liner. So you pull the liners out of the boots, and then you work through the boot, and you're like, couldn't find a screwdriver the right size that you could get enough torque on. So you're like, really, like your hands getting all like scraped up, like trying to put it together. I finally got it put together, and it had like once you mounted it, there was like a little flip latch on the inside, and you could rotate it like freely. So you could mount them and then flip the latch and then like change your stance angle.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool now that I'm thinking back to it.
Yeah.
But the problem was it made you so much taller off the board. So you were too high up, and then your liner, like, I don't know, it was like you felt
like
too
a riser.
Yeah, it was like a riser. So that was why we got away from it in the end. But that board, you know, I was like basically faced with the decision of like, okay, I'm like, this could be career suicide, like ride for a kiteboard brand. And people will be like, it's done. He's like, see ya, you know?
See ya, Jeff.
So I had that in my mind. I was like, oh, that's kind of, I don't know what to do here. But I put that board together, and I went out and hit the wake. And the first hit on the wake, I got bucked like off kilter. Like I was just going for like an air or a grab or something, just to feel it for the first time. And I got bucked, like huge pop, and kicked backside, caught my back edge and slammed. And I was in the water, just like, those ones that kind of takes you, just like, oh man, like taking your breath away. But I was like, in my mind, I was like, holy shit. I was like, that was like, I wasn't ready for that. But if I could like embrace that pop, like we could
harness this.
I could probably do new tricks, And I was like out of tricks at that time. I was like, I don't know, something's got to change. Like the wake's got to get bigger, the board's got to change, because I'm tapped out right now at like, I can't make it to the next level. And that board in that moment, I was like, holy cow. Like I felt that and I was like, dude, I could work with this.
Yeah.
And then I took it to the Utah Boat Show like soon after, and they had a rail jam inside at the show. And it was the first time like all the riders had seen a slingshot in person. And I was like, I couldn't nose press. Like, everybody rode a stiff board and they'd lean and try and nose press or tail press. And it's like, I was especially bad at it. But on that board, I was like, dude, I'm tail pressing right now. Or I'm like, it's kind of happening. And then like a buddy of mine who lived out there, he's like, let me try that board. So I was like seeing other people intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And everybody was loving it on the cable stuff too. I was like, dude, this is a special board. I was like, this is cool. Like maybe we could pull this off. And so that one, like I say, look, the boots were black and red. The board was like baby blue, and like I don't even have it. I wish I had that board, but it was a special one.
Yeah.
And that was the one where I was like, whoa, wakeboarding is going to change.
Yeah.
You
believed at that point.
Yeah. I was
okay,
like, holy cow, this is exactly what, the industry needs right now. Cause it was just, everybody was just molding the fins, and then they were like, no, let's get away from that. And then like right around then, Hyperlight and Byerly put out the board where the water flowed over the edges. It had like hooks in the rail. Do you remember that board? And I was like, man, Byerly's my favorite, but I don't know how that's going to work. But I just, in my mind was like, man, I feel like it's going the wrong way, because
they're trying stuff, but
people
maybe
are out of
what?
ideas, and we need a new idea. And that's where Flex was it. And I was like, okay, so we got the board. Now the next challenge is like, we got to turn a kiteboard brand into a cool wakeboard brand,
Interesting.
And that was hard to do on the boat, but like we talked about earlier, things naturally shifted towards cable, and then like a whole new wave of people came in that were just like riding like Shred Town was the first ones really that were like doing, they probably helped a ton.
Yeah.
Like, solidify our reputation and make us into like a, more of a cable brand when it comes to wakeboards. But yeah, that board, that was it for me. That was like,
that was the one.
I had the aha moment on it for sure. So
interesting. Yeah. Okay.
But
that's
funny
cool
how
that was the first one that you got.
Yeah, it was cool. But it wasn't a board that looked cool. It was just, it had the technology, but we had to work on the look. Cause there is like you guys were talking about recently about like, you got to look good. Like,
well, you want to look down and see something.
Yeah. When I looked down at that board, I was like, God, I need to spray paint this thing. I had a couple of years of boards that I was like, God, I hate this graphic, and I feel like it's making me struggle,
There's something to that, man.
But like, it's funny now, like he's talking about all the different boards, and Chase has like got a really like sharp eye for like cool design and just like all the like anything he creates or like is into is like, it's always like next level awesome, and it's funny like that he would ask that question, because he and I probably have a similar passion now, like with foiling. We look, there's certain foilers where you're like, nah, it's just not working, like that guy's crushing it. He just did like an air back 3, but like, this is wrong, or this board he's got to change his board,
Yeah.
So there's a thing about the look that's got to be right,
Well, Chase absolutely gets
and
that.
he knows.
Sure.
He's always
He
ahead of
knows.
the curve. The funniest thing about Chase was when he was a wakeboarder, he had the widest stance. They set the trend for the widest freaking stance that you can have. And now when he foils, his legs are
standing
almost
right next to each other.
touching.
Yeah.
He has the skinniest stance of anybody I've ever seen on a foil board. And every time I foil, I'm like, oh, my legs are so far apart. I look like a kook. How does he ride like that? Because I want to look cooler when I do it,
Yeah.
But
Still got it to this day.
yeah, man, he's still still blazing that style path.
On the foil.
Yeah, on a
legendary,
foil.
Known for style. on the
Which
foil.
may be an oxymoron for some folks out there, but Hey,
You can have style on anything, right?
you will get there one day. Just that's.
Don't tell me that.
You trust me.
Don't
you
tell me
and I will
that.
be here 2 years from now, and you'll be like, dude,
2 years.
maybe one. It might be sooner. You'll be like, dude, the high aspect wings are blowing my mind.
Yeah. That might be a little too,
When foiling came out, I said no. I was like Slingshot.
I'm fine with foil. I'm in foil.
Slingshot sent it to me, and they were like, "This could be big," and I was like, "No, this is crazy. It's too sharp. It's too people won't."
There were a lot of people saying, I feel like when foiling came out, they're like, that's too dangerous. It's going to cut somebody's head off.
Yeah, we all felt that way, and then and then somehow the fun overpowered the fear, and then we got smarter, and everybody's like, "Okay, well, we got to make it less scary."
Yeah.
And so it worked itself out like pretty,
And I feel like it
pretty
really
quickly.
it wasn't as bad as people were blowing it up to be.
I mean,
everything's dangerous.
everything's dangerous.
You have a car here. It's dangerous.
Yeah,
Get over yourself, people. Come on. We got, let's dive into some more Slingshot. And I think we kick it off with the Slingshot Silhouette Challenge. So,
All right.
relatively new segment. So, being, an employee of the brand yourself,
Yeah.
we're going to do a quadruple silhouette challenge. So, for the listeners, he's going to have to guess who this photo is of, and I have silhouetted out the rider.
Oh, I'm worried about this.
We're
There's
going
a lot more wakeboarders now than there was
well, we're kind of spanning.
when I studied it as closely as
We're
I
spanning
did.
all sorts of eras here. So here's the first one, and for the listeners and viewers, I'll put it up on the screen. I have a black and white printer to make it a little bit harder. Silhouetted out the body. Photo will be on the screen, so you can try and guess.
My first thought was Bob Sitchell, but it's not.
You can see the board in that one, in the bindings. His name was mentioned on this pod.
It's Jeff House.
It is Jeff House.
Yeah. It's well, when I saw the Slingshot, I could tell it's a Slingshot board, but I was like, there wasn't many of us back then on the boat. So I was like, it could be me or Jeff House, but this guy looks way cooler than me, so it's Jeff House.
Yep. You're 1 for 1. And I think you're going to go 2 for 2 on this one, but this is just a fun one I got to do.
Chase Hebner.
Yeah, I was going to blur out the
Dude.
board, but the board's such a, I don't know, I liked it. So that's Chase Hebner for the second one.
No, but it honestly, not
He looks
even
jacked in the
It's
silhouette
not the board,
thing,
dude.
too.
It's funny. He used to be like, dude, he was jacked. Like, he was like just a
meatball, dude.
thick, but like, you look at this photo and like, dude, he's jacked. Look at his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a dude. Chase's backside 7. He might have he might have been one of the first guys to do a backside 7 on the boat. He was off the double up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, third one. This one's a little bit harder, I think.
Also a Slingshot.
You can obviously tell where it is.
Oh, this is a new Slingshot. That is... Yeah, this is at Valdosta going into the pool.
I will say they're all going to be Slingshot.
And I want to say it's Coty, but it's Cross.
It is Cross. Way to back yourself into that one. I'll give you the points for that one.
I saw his face changing.
I'll give you the points for that one.
Yeah.
3 for 3.
See, I study these photos a lot. They're all on my computer and daily.
I would make a side bet that you're not going to get this one.
Okay.
3 for 3 now. This is the fourth one.
This is a
tough one.
It's in Europe.
It is. Well,
Argentina?
It's not in America. I'll give you.
It's not in America. Is this dude going up or down these?
That's a tail press. He's going down.
He's doing a tail press coming down, but
the tail press is a big hint, I will say.
Oh, and he's on
the photographer if you want.
He's on a Nomad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take that hint. Who's a photographer?
Stefan. Well, that's not really a hint. I'd probably pretty obvious.
Stefan's a photographer.
I can give you another hint.
And this was okay. So he went on a trip with Alex Graydon.
Yep, it is Alex Graydon. That's impressive, dude. That is an impressive one. And I feel like the photographer doesn't even help you on that one because like Slingshot, Stefan Voller. Okay,
yeah, but
like
this
90%
is
of the
this
shit
is one of those 2 towers in Argentina or something.
is it?
I think. They did a trip, dude, they have the sickest photo at one of the cable parks. Maybe it's the guys, what's their name? Kai and Ulf Ditch.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
It might be their cable. Is there a cable park called Pampas?
Yeah, Pampa.
One of the parks they were at, there was like a bunch of cowboys like trying to break horses next to the cable park. So Stefan and Alex have this photo gallery of these two guys just jumping on horses and giving it hell and like getting like, they're the coolest photos ever. It's like these dudes just like jump on and see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's happening apparently like right next to the cable park. And all their photos, I was like, damn, man, this was like an epic adventure that you guys went on. And they were both like, Stefan was an insane photographer at this point, and then Graydon was getting good too. So they were like, it was like they were on like a photographic journey through another country together, you know?
Damn.
It's pretty cool.
Impressive you went 4 for 4, I will say.
The only other person that came to mind is Toby Rittig, but he wouldn't have been there. But it looks like Toby.
He rode that board though.
Yeah.
Toby did, for sure.
Yeah, and he rode a Nomad for a bit.
That was a Nomad with the channels on it still. So.
That's a fun rail. I love like that.
Did you hit it?
Well, not that exact one, but just that style. Like
so fun.
Firecracker, thing, right? Yeah. But dude, if you're unprepared, it's kind of like, oh shit. Like I'm not like
the one at Valdosta. If you go front board through it and you're not prepared,
it's kind of intense.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be easier. The first time I got on, I was like, oh.
You kind of look at it and you're like, I'll just like be soft in the knees and I'll go right. And,
yeah.
It ain't that easy.
It's kind of intense.
That's the fun part about it.
But pretty awesome.
All right. So we're kind of talking Slingshot and how they entered the market and all that. And I'm curious, I guess, was there some pushback from like other riders that weren't Slingshot guys? There had to have been, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What was that like?
They were, I mean, like exactly what I said, like, oh, you're riding for a kiteboard brand? Like I heard that, you know? And, I never was like really that close with a lot of the pros. Like I didn't like go and ride at Watson's house all the time or go ride with Rusty or like when I did it like felt like a special occasion, like kind of mixing in with like the big pros, you know. I was always, cause partially it was just cause I was on the other side of town. Like I'd ride with like Josh Palma was a rider for Hyperlight for a lot of years, and now he works for Mastercraft. So I'd ride with him. Bob Sovin and him and I had a cool thing going for a while. Keith Lyman when he used to live on that side. But I was always kind of like with a group that was a little different than the real core like in scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably the most funny moment I remember was like, I remember Rusty coming over to me somewhere like at a boat show or something, or we were on a body glove trip together. He's like, Jeff, let me see that board. Because he'd heard about it, you know, and he like grabs it and he's like, let me see that thing, and just grabs the tip of it and fucking leans into it, like pushes. The board was like a U shape. And I was like, oh my God, this is the only one I got. And it's for sure breaking right now. He just like gave it hell and it didn't break. I was like, oh, okay, we made it through that one. But I remember that standing out as like one moment where it was like everybody was just kind of like uncomfortable with this wakeboard, you know? And then there was definitely riders that like were way too cool. And then, you know, a year or two later called me and like, hey, what's Slingshot got is there any room for like another rider? So like, I always loved those moments where I'm like, why is this guy calling me? You know? And then I'd get that question and I'm like, that's funny timing, you know? So, but yeah, there was like from the, you know, it was just new and different, right? Yeah. But it's so funny that it started there. And then like after Shred Town and then like the Space Mob coming next and like all the crew that we got now, it's like a lot of people this podcast might freaking, like the secret might be out that Slingshot was a kiteboard brand first, you know?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, what? I thought it was
Is that why your shirts say Hood River on some of them?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So it's pretty.
What's going on in Hood
River?
But
the Slingshot founders, Jeff and Tony Lagos, always wanted, like from day one, they're like, it's just like waterboarding, for a lack of a better term. It's like we're all doing the same thing. We're just have a different power source. And that was like their kind of dream, was to connect them, be like kiteboarding and wakeboarding. Like one day we should have a trip where they mix. And I was like, not yet. It's not, you know, because wakeboarders were so core and like closed-minded at that time. And I was like, I don't think we're ready yet. You know, it was like, and remember there was a point in one of these, or you got all the alliance issues here, but Wakeboarding Magazine, one issue had a kiter on the cover, and we hadn't seen it. And all the wakeboarders were like, what is this? And you open it up, and it was like someone from like South Florida or something, and it described who they were. And it's like, this guy kiteboarding in, we're like, what is this? And why is it on our magazine? Everybody was like, not cool. There's only like 12 magazines a year, and every cover is an opportunity for an athlete to like progress their career or like prove they're worth it. And now we've just given one of the 12 up to a kiteboarder.
Kind of valid argument, not
Dude,
gonna lie.
They were it was rightfully so, but it wasn't that particular moment, but just in general, wakeboarders are like, those kiters are cheating. They don't have gravity. Like they're just hanging and dangling, which isn't a wrong argument.
It's just different. Yeah.
It was different, but that was always their dream, was like one day maybe they'll connect.
Yeah.
I think foiling is making that happen. Foiling is connecting boating with ocean sports, with wind sports. Like it's opening up all the waterways to like the same exact passion. Whereas like when I went to Hood River for the first time as a wakeboarder, our CEO Jeff is like, we get out and it's ripping wind. It's like 35 miles an hour, which is probably a mellow day for them, and he's like, isn't it great? And I was like, no, this is terrible. Like, this is every wakeboarder's worst nightmare. It's so windy. What would we do here? So it's funny going from that to now I go to Hood River, and part of this is probably just me getting older, and getting into different things and like opening my eyes more to just like all sports. But I love going to Hood River now. I don't wakeboard when I'm there. I foil, but
Does
it's like,
anybody wakeboard in Hood River?
No, nobody wakeboard. Yeah, but I mean, I guess I could take a kite and ride like a twin tip and try and do wakeboard tricks. But I'm kind of like my cup is full with like wakeboard tricks over my lifespan. It's like I've done a lot of. I don't necessarily need one more wakeboard trick like to get the stoke. It's like I'm at the point where I'm
shifting a little bit.
Yeah, like for wakeboarding, for me, I'm like, the cable is so much fun because it's new and it's different. And like guys like Wes, I watch him and I'm like, oh, dude, I could go out and just carve and like bank and like learn how to butter and put the board pants on, and then I'll be cool again. Or it'll be, it's way slower and it's quieter and like my crew's all there. Like it's a fun new environment for me, So like my passion for wakeboarding still exists, but it's more so on a cable now because it's just new to me. And my passion for boating is still there and huge, but it's on a foil now. Yeah. It's like, here's something like I always enjoy. I mean, who doesn't enjoy new things, right? So it's like, here comes foiling and you're like, well, it'd be fun to figure this out. And that was the same thing as like when Slingshot came out and it was like, oh, you're riding a kiteboard. What are you doing? When I started riding a foil, everybody's like, what are you doing on that thing? That's dumb. And then it was like, oh, look, Grubb's riding one with a wake skate mounted to it. And then it's like, oh, Nick Taylor's doing it too. And you just were like, maybe foiling's going to catch on.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Like I've enjoyed riding that wave of like, it feels, they're always like huge, like career suicide opportunities where you're like, oh, this is either going to hit or
it's like buying a risky stock.
Dude,
it's like,
it's going to hit or we're out, but I was like, oh, I don't care. I'm having fun. And I really don't care what I look like anymore. I'm just like, when I get spare time, I want to do something fun. And that's kind of doing it for me now, but
that's fair.
Anyways.
All right. Let's keep talking about Slingshot though, because, on a bigger level, a lot of wake brands, not so much recently, but over the course of wakeboarding's history, a lot of brands have come and gone, board brands. You could name any sort of brand that have come and gone. So, like, what do you attribute Slingshot's, quote unquote, success to, and their reasoning for staying around, I guess?
I think it's a lot to do with like going with the flow, like realizing that like things aren't going to stay the same forever. If you come in and are really committed or closed-minded to just like, this is all we're going to do, that whatever that, business is or whatever, like the trend could change or the passions could change, So like, yeah, if we would have come in and said, we're boat only, we are going to be the kings of boat. Like we might be out now. Cause it seems like most people behind the boat are surfing or foiling.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to be willing to go with the flow. And they've done a really good job of that, of like, okay, well, if every brand's saying we're a cable brand and we know our boards are the most durable and they're the most fun and like, you know, the most progressive cable riders are using them, let's embrace that rather than like ignore it. And, you know, so we kind of made that transition, and luckily, like, you know, now Europe's our biggest market. There's cables everywhere, and it's awesome. You know, like they don't have access to lakes and beaches the way we do in the US. So it's like their fun weekends are, you know, happening at cable parks.
Yeah.
So some people go and just lay on the sand. They don't even actually wakeboard.
What's a lake?
Yeah, they're like, dude, we're going to the lake and we're going to grill hot dogs and watch the skiers go around, you know? Like,
pretty sick day.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, you know? But unfortunately, it feels like in the U.S. there's just so many, I don't know, maybe there's just too much easy access to other things. Or maybe
part of it,
or maybe it's that our wakeboard, you know, like our parks are maybe in different places that are harder to get to or not as exciting, and, you know, but anyway, but yeah, with Slingshot, it's like, you know, we were able to embrace cable and go with that. And then, like, you know, they've always been progressive with ideas. And a lot of times, like, you know, I've said no in the past. I'm like, no, that won't happen or that won't take off. And then it does, you know? So I've learned to be like, open my mind and be like, don't say no. Like it could happen.
Yeah.
Keep it. Yeah. And like foiling was another great example of it. It's like, you know, I had mixed feelings of whether it would boom, and now it's the only thing you know, like if I got free time, I'm probably going to try and go foiling.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know? So, I guess I want to talk about crews a little bit before we dive into more Slingshot stuff. And you mentioned Shred Town. Yeah. Space Mob. You want to grab one of those athletic? Is that what you're looking for?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Good. I don't know how old they are.
They don't go bad, right? Did you see I unloaded it from the box?
I did not
I'm
see
still
that.
keeping it in the.
Well,
so I made a step closer.
I don't know if they're.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a athletic.
You think they expire?
No.
Oh, okay then.
I don't know.
What's the worst that can happen? Right? Yeah.
It's a non-alcoholic beer that Hunter has hiding here in the corner.
It says only 70 calories. I thought they were way higher than
that's
that.
Good.
So
I'm in now.
I'm mistaken. Or maybe that's 70 IBUs.
And it's a hazy IPA. I listened to a podcast with like the founder of this brand.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. Like by the end of it, I was like, dude, I'm going to
go buy a 6-pack of this.
But then you're like, why would I drink beer to have no thrill?
What's the thrill of that? I'll just drink water.
So I'm going to do it, and we'll find out.
Give it a sniff.
You can
give it a sniff first.
It smells like beer.
Oh, there you go. You're good to go then.
So I'll report back and
after 12 ounces
when it's done.
Yeah, we'll see if you're stumbling all over the place with a non-alcoholic.
Tell you how I feel.
Yeah,
cool.
All
right.
So we mentioned, or you were talking about crews. We got Shred Town. You mentioned Space Mob. I mean, we got Copycats Club, Zoopak, to name a few that are on the Slingshot brand, I guess you can say. And is that I'm curious if that's an intentional direction that Slingshot as a brand goes on the cable side of things. Is it like, hey, we get like, sign this whole brand for one rider's contract and like that's how this kind of works? Or is like, on a real note, is it actually, you see a group of people can have a stronger impact than the sum of its parts, or however that saying is?
Yeah. No, I think, we do. As you read them back to me, like, oh, that's more crews than I thought we had.
I listened to a couple of them.
Yeah. And there's been others, like the one you were part of, the ZMT crew, right? Yeah. And like there's been a lot of, to me, I think it's cool just because it's easier to sell like that the crew vibe than just one person. One person is always risky because you're like, what if they get hurt, or what if they like something changes in their life and they got to go. Nobody's like getting freaking rich and like living a luxe life being a wakeboarder, right? So there's a lot of like chances for people to have to maybe get out of the industry and like just grow up or do something else, right? So with a crew, it's nice because they're like, hey, there's multiple people supporting this idea, and if one of them, it can be interchangeable a little bit, but I think it's more fun as a fan or like a consumer to like buy into like a crew and like feel like you're in it too, as opposed to like buy one person's name and you're like, say you've got the, whatever, the Hunter Thane board. It's like, yeah, this is cool, but I'm just, Hunter's cooler than me always.
Yeah.
Because his name's on my board. Right. But when you buy a Zoopak board, you're like, dude, I'm part of the crew, like maybe I'll be one of the members, like it just feels more like fun, I think, to be a part of as like a consumer. And then on the brand side, there's definitely less risk of like, oh, well, if that guy just quits wakeboarding tomorrow, we're in a tough place with all these boards, you know? So, but I don't know. Like pro models are funny because every rider is like dying to have one. Like it seems like the only way for them to like legitimize their pro career is to have a pro model with their name on it, which I get completely. And like I had the same like passion, but it's just so, I don't know. It's so hard for the brand to do. And it's so like, I mean, it's a tough thing to like just have a long shelf life with even like Danny Harf, one of the best wakeboarders out there. Like his board's called the One, not the Danny Harf Pro. And that was probably a great marketing move cause now he's not, he's not really on top anymore, but the One is still crushing it. But if it was called the Danny Harf, by now you'd be like, okay, let's, love him, but he's moved on. And like, it feels weird riding a board for somebody that's no longer a part of this, but like, yeah, that's why I'd like, I love being like, oh, it's the Coalition by Wes and Quinn, but in the future, it could be the Coalition by Cross and Cody or like whoever, it could be, it can kind of you can keep branding and pushing and like keep that legacy going without relying on one person, and it's a lot of pressure too for a rider. You're like, dude, I got my name on a board and like, I can't hang anymore. It's like at some point the tables are going to turn on me real quick and it's going to go from like, everybody thinks I'm cool to like, they're going to all come after me with axes and be like, get him out of here. He stayed too long,
Yeah, it's amazing how fast that table can turn, right? Where it's like everybody wants to get you in that position, and you're in the position. Then next year, it's like get this guy out.
It's scary being the one. You're the one everybody's looking at. And it's like, well, the only thing left to do now is get that guy off the top, so the next one can be there. Like that's just the natural like progression of competition, or like people wanting to be the best. It's like, all right, well, aim for that guy because he's on the top.
Yeah,
take his board. It's just kind of. And Slingshot's always had just more of a fun family, like team spirit, I think. We've never really been like the hardcore competitors where it's like all our eggs in one basket. It's just kind of like a vibe overall.
Yeah.
And so, I think it just works well to have crews, I mean, we still have individual riders that have their name on a board, but I mean, in all honesty, they don't sell as well as a crew board. Like an individual pro model board is like, that person got to have a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Where it's like the crew board, there's multiple people that have fans,
And also like, I feel like a person's name on a board, it'll almost, I'm not going to say deter someone from buying it, but they could be like, I don't really know that guy. Like, I don't really,
exactly. Like, well, this one's cool, but who's that?
Yeah. I don't,
and then they're like,
I don't know if I want to represent that guy. I don't know who he is. Like,
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. But this one's called this other name, and it's like some people probably don't even think about it. Like you'll see it in native and be like, oh, well, whatever. Like it's a cool board.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you realize it's something else. All right. So being, in the I guess kind of a driver's seat position with Slingshot, right? You're making some decisions. Have you ever had to sue a company for copying a product that you have? If so, why not? Or why?
No, we haven't had to sue. Not that I can remember. You seem like you got some dirt. You're going somewhere.
Did you hear what I said? I guess.
Wait, no, you said why not?
Why not?
Okay. Oh, okay. I was confused by the way you phrased that. So you're telling me that there's something out there that we should be going after. I'm telling you something
you already know.
There's one thing I can think of in my mind. Is there more that I should worry about?
I'm not keeping that close.
Boots that I've seen. Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Is it
just not worth your time?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, but what do they say?
Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I almost looked at those boots and I was like, well, they must be really freaking good if some random brand is copying them entirely.
Yeah, true.
That's
a good point.
Like, well, that's nice. That's kind of, not that we needed like affirmation that our product was cool, but it must be because here's a whole nother
somebody's taking it
brand trying to do it.
Yeah.
But I did see those. I was like, whoa, aggressive, dude.
Yeah, they're very similar. Very similar. I mean, on a serious note, what have been some of like the biggest innovations you guys have either come up with? It could be wakeboard, binding technology, it could be foiling, like that you guys have kind of, came to the drawing board and been like, all right, here's what we can do, over your tenure at Slingshot, because you've basically been there since the beginning almost.
Yeah.
Wakeboard side.
There's been, it's crazy actually to think about all the things that they did. Like we used to have shirts that said first. And that was like a motto for a lot of years. And the marketing was like the first in flex and then the first in foil later, like I think right when foils came out, they were like first in flex, first in foil. But like in wakeboarding, it was like, first flex boards. We had the first removable liners. It's fun doing all these things that nobody else is doing, because then it's like you kind of have the freedom to do anything you want because nobody else is doing it. It's like, well, like we'll just throw it out there and see if it works or not. But like the removable liners, those took off, right? And then we did the gummy strap closure on the boots is totally different. It's awesome. Some people it's funny. Our boot designer I think he deep down hates it, because all the kids, when we made the gummy straps, the biggest thing holding him back was that he's like, oh, they look really bad when there's too much hanging off and they kind of like flap in the wind.
I did agree with that, by the way.
So, I mean, like when we do product shoots with them, we have them perfectly like, oh, we want like 2 or 3 notches, like more than, and then it looks nice and tight and clean. But there was like a trend when they came out, and there still is somewhere. It's like these kids will just freaking crank them.
I remember Victor Salmon had the freaking whole thing hanging off.
They have like so much strap hanging off, which is, but it was like just the kids like trying to express themselves, But that was a rad, that was a rad one. Bringing in the foil was rad. First, maybe not the first, but like the directional board stuff was pretty progressive. I just probably like we definitely changed, I think, and this is probably going back to Shred Town, but we definitely changed like rail riding for the better, I think, or they did.
Yeah.
And then Space Mob came right behind, perfect timing, and just kept pushing it. So it was like, that gave us a lot of momentum of just like reinforcing like, hey, if you want really cool progressive cable riding, that's, Slingshot's doing it. So,
is there any of the innovations that like you guys have tried to come up with that didn't work? And I guess what's the process of, we're thinking about doing this, and then I guess where do you axe it along the way? Where it's like, I guess you don't have to say the specific things you guys have been working on. But
there's been a couple.
Where do you axe it?
There's been a couple boot things along the way that I've pushed for a while. Like maybe an opportunity that'll come along, or like sometimes you get like you get a lot of like garage tech, like inventors that reach out to brands and are like, hey, I got this idea and I built a prototype and I want to like, I want to license it with you guys and it's going to be huge. And some of them are good ideas. Like I probably, maybe shouldn't even say them just because it's like, we probably signed an NDA at some point, but like, but the problem is when I've tested some really risky shit before, because I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm the one who received the email and said, yeah, we're interested. Let's try the next step. And then it's like, well, nobody else is going to ride it but me. Like everybody else is like, no, that won't work. But we've had some interesting stuff come by and then, or come through like across, through the office and across our desks. But there's been multiple things on the boot side that have come and then just gone, where it's like, yeah, it could be cool. And then like there was a really big like brand potential collab opportunity with a brand in another sport that was like, damn, this could be awesome. And we just couldn't really come up with a better product. Like we tested some stuff. Like Quinn was a big tester for us with this particular like potential brand partnership. And we're like, we're not getting anything better. Like we just keep going back to our boots, and it's like wakeboard boots are very specific, like, I mean, they've got to have, they act very similar to say like a snowboard boot, but there's just so many, I don't know. I get so comfortable in wakeboard boots. So I go put on like, say, a snowboard boot. I'm like, dude, I'm locked in. This is like uncomfortable. Like I would almost prefer to wakeboard or snowboard in wakeboard boots. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but I'm like so trained on just flexible, low profile, like, they'd be cold as shit probably because there's not a lot of material.
A lot of insulation going on, yeah.
But I just can't get into the like locked. I guess if you're like rolling heel side on a ridge for like 10 minutes, you'd probably be dying if you didn't have like the high backs or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, I don't know. It's hard to like say our wakeboards, like I really feel like our wakeboards are like the perfect shape wakeboard, like we've kind of landed on like the same way a skateboard is, pretty much twin tip and it's got kick, like it's got like kind of contours on the top of it so your feet fit into it a certain way, but it's like for the most part the shapes are
pretty standard,
the perfect shape for skateboarding or the perfect shape for snowboarding, and I kind of feel like our wakeboards are that. Like, so it's hard to you got like a push and pull of like, oh, we need something new, but then it's like, yeah, but it's so awesome right now, and the last thing we want to do is go back into that era of wakeboarding where we start like molding fins onto the board or just doing things for the sake of having new.
Yeah.
But it's not better. It's just new. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like that's the next step of marketing too, where it's like, we got good stuff. Instead of just creating just to create, let's like market the stuff as good,
Yeah, it's great. And go rip it and give it hell. And when you break it eventually because you're going ape shit at the park, congrats. Like, let's get you another one.
Hang that sucker on the wall and get another one. Yeah. Yeah,
so,
nothing wrong with breaking boards out there, kids. All right.
Yeah,
happens. I got quite a few more here. But I think we'll do a random question here.
Okay,
this one's been piquing my interest. Have you ever trespassed onto Shaquille O'Neal's property? Allegedly.
Not really. Just onto his dock.
His dock, not property.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
He used to.
Did he find out?
Yeah. Oh, actually.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you're piquing my memory entirely. Oh, okay. So we did a nautique shoot on Lake Butler where he used to live. I don't think he owns that house anymore.
He moved, yeah.
But he used to live on Lake Butler, right where we are. That house is about a mile away from where we're sitting right now. And he used to have a Superman statue on his dock because they called him Superman. Like he was the king of Orlando. He was amazing, like he was on the Orlando Magic in the absolute prime. And it was cool that he was like a local in town, And so, yeah, we were doing a nautique shoot, I think it was, and I jumped up on his dock. It was like right when Instagram started. So probably in the deepest scroll you've ever been in your life, there's probably a picture on my Instagram of me standing next to the Shaq statue. And I posted it and was like, oh, cool. We did it, And then like maybe a week later, a couple days later, Chris Garrison, the photographer, he used to be, or he might still be Flash Garrison on Instagram. I didn't even know him that well, but like, that guy was always everywhere. Like every story he had was like, oh yeah, I just got back from LA, or no, I was in New York doing this. And I was like, he was just like kind of this
connections.
He was connected. He was like the ultimate hustler, like connected in big places. And he sends a picture like maybe a couple days later of Shaq holding a phone, pointing at my Instagram picture like a WTF face, So somehow he ran into Shaq and he's like, Shaq, I got to show you this, and so I got that picture and I was like, that's kind of badass.
That's sick. No, it is sick. Yeah. That's awesome.
He never reached out. He didn't send me a letter or anything. I guess it was clear.
It was clear. But you did it. And you got the photo evidence, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Somewhere deep.
Yeah. There's an Alliance interview on it, and I'll put that photo in. All right, let's kind of dive back to Slingshot because you're the team manager, would you say? Is that an appropriate title, part of your title?
Yeah.
Team manager? Yeah. So for any kids out there, grommets, or even not grommets, kids getting into wakeboarding, they want to get sponsored, they want to get hooked up.
Yeah.
What are you telling them? What are you going to say to them?
This is probably the hardest thing because there's more wakeboarders than I feel like there's ever been. And there's only so many brands.
Whoa, you just said there's more wakeboarders than ever been, so you don't believe wakeboarding is dying. Is that?
No, I don't think so. I think there's more good wakeboarders than there's probably ever been.
That's
maybe there's less as a whole, but they're all like, at least because I'm dealing more with cable wakeboarders, they're all so freaking good because they're doing thousands of laps, right?
Yeah.
It used to take a long time to get good at wakeboarding when you did it behind a boat.
Yeah.
And now it's like 2 summers and you could be going pro, you know? So
yeah, what do you say to the kids?
It's a tough question. And I get asked it a lot. And I get emails all the time and I feel terrible because it needs like a quality response.
Because they deserve it, right?
They deserve it. Yeah. But sometimes I've let them cook for weeks because I'm just like, God, I don't like it. It takes so much brain power. I feel like to like let a kid down in a, you know, when you know one that's clearly come in and you're like, this is not, you know, we're not ready here yet. Right. But it's like, you don't want to like kill somebody's spirit. And then it's like, screw the sport, you know, or whatever. Like you want to like somehow like,
let them down easy. But
somebody said like, we want to like do the cradle them or something, but like something with an iron fist, just like some sort of saying some lawyer throughout the other day. I was like, whoa, that was cool. But I'm not getting it right, but it's something along those lines.
I get the vibe, yeah.
Yeah, you got to tell them no, but like make them love the brand at the end of it all, which is tough. But I mean, you got to be insane at wakeboarding. Like if you're telling somebody what tricks you're doing to try and get sponsored, you're already not, it's not enough. Yeah. It's like, I could care less about, don't send me a trick list because you need to be doing tricks that I don't even know what they're called, you know? Like you could even be winning events. There's some guys out there winning events that aren't sponsored, you know, even like on the boat side, like there's
2 big names on the boat side. Nick Rapp and Thomas Herman, as of this moment, don't have board sponsors.
Like spray painted boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, how in the world is that the case? You know? So
I don't know, to be honest.
It's great. I think a lot of the board brands are probably trying to understand the value of like really high level boat wakeboarding. I think is the struggle now because it's.
I think they're also trying to understand. They're trying to catch up with like what a Thomas Herman is doing and understand the value of his like social media experiment that seems to be going on. And I think they're trying to play catch up to like.
It's awesome.
Oh, what's Tom like? Is there value here? And like, no, shit, there is. I think, but like,
there definitely is.
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, you're right.
But then there's another side of it where it's like, he's too good. We probably can't even afford him.
It's also probably
he's unsponsored.
Maybe he's at offers. I don't know.
He's unsponsored currently, but maybe his starting rate is unrealistic, or it's too, or you know, he's comparing himself to Corey Tunison, who's probably crushing it.
Yeah.
You know, for some reason,
for XYZ reason.
For some reason, when the Red Bull sticker goes on your board, every other contract comes running along. You know what I mean?
Those Red Bull opportunities, you know, you do those crazy videos.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean,
F1 in Miami.
You got to be freaking good at wakeboarding, like unbelievably good at wakeboarding. And you got to be doing something different, which is really hard to describe, like what's different. Like, but it's just like somehow you got to stand out, man. Like when the Shred Town guys came across our plate, we're like, the first video we ever saw of them, they weren't that good at wakeboarding, but it was so interesting. You were like, damn, this is going to catch on. And then they got way better, you know, and like they just leveled up and leveled up and leveled up. Right. But they were the first crew. And then for a while I was like, dude, well, I think we had a conversation way long ago, you, me and Dylan, about like sponsoring a video and stuff like that. And it was like, I remember just being like, yeah, whatever, you got to do something different, man. It's got to be like, look at Shred Town, look at Space Mob. Like it's got to stand out off the shelf, because just being good at doing it isn't enough, you know? Like we need something that's marketable. It could be like crazy hair or crazy, like, I mean, look at Wes Jacobson. Like how many times have you seen him upside down wakeboarding?
And he went to Australia a couple times. No, he hasn't been to Australia, actually. I don't know.
So he was on the wrong side of the earth and upside down?
I don't even know if he's been to Australia.
I have one picture of Wes he can do it. He's trying to do like a mute half cab roll off a kicker. And it's the most off-brand picture of Wes you've ever seen, like upside down, right? And
well, he's so damn tall, you think his head would probably hit the water when he's mid-flip, you know?
Yeah. He didn't get that high, but that's not his forte. But it doesn't, you know, some like Thomas Herman might look at Wes Jacobson and be like, what the hell? He can't do a 720, or maybe he can probably do a 720, but it's like, he can't do a mob or this or a double or all these things that I've worked my whole life to get good at. But it's like, yeah, but when you go to an event, there's a circle around Wes. Like Wes is standing there saying something, and there's freaking 10 people looking at him like, what happened next? You know? And you're like, dude, there's just an energy that some people have and some people don't. There's been other instances of people reaching out that are like very good, like very competitive wakeboarders, but they're like so unbelievably nice. Like, it's like, dude, you're too nice. It's just, there's nothing there. Like, we need some sort of edge or a different look or an attitude, or, you know, like Brenton Priestley and Aaron Rathie, they were like, they had edge and attitude, and like, you know, like those were good examples of just like, they've got something that's a little different. Or Scott Byerly, you're like, dude, like Murray said it in a video one time. He's like, dude, that guy could trip on the dock and like face plant and be freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like,
it's aura.
Yeah. There's something there that's bigger than just like, you know, there's an energy that you got to have. And that's hard to, maybe it's something that just comes with time, or like, you know, especially for younger kids, it's like, you got to kind of figure that out, or it comes with age, you know?
It's like high quality different. You still have to be a good rider and have these high quality tricks, and your stuff has to be legit, but you also, on top of that, have to be different too, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I'm thinking about a kid who I think kind of has it. New kid on Slingshot, Ralph's. Freebergs, or I don't know how you say his name.
Freebergs, that's how I say it.
But like,
probably wrong.
Yeah, right, always. But he's doing, he did like a towback 10 at Valdosta in a different way. He edited it to a good song.
Dude.
Like, all these different things are adding up. Every time he posts a reel, like, I'm watching.
It blows up too.
Yeah, it blows up because he's got some shit figured out.
There's something cool.
Yeah, and you can't, maybe you can't put your thumb on it, but it works.
Ralph's is that way. And then like our boy Louis Egerix that you guys were just talking about. I was so stoked to hear you talking about him on that recent episode.
Yeah.
And he's just got cool, like, I mean, his wakeboarding's unbelievable, right? Like that trick, the Indy Tantrum, the frontside,
the BDB rewind. Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't know what to call that. Like, you got to have a couple of those tricks. It's like, we don't even know what it is, but it's awesome.
And then he gets second place at Embley last year or whatever.
Yeah.
You know he's going to have another good contest.
But he's got this fun, and then he's got this fun, cool, like floaty hair going on. And like, we had him do some video stuff for us for like, just like the new boards coming out. And he sent this video, and he's just a funny, like, you know, he's like goofy and funny, and Ralph's is the same way. And you're like, dude, these guys got like a entertaining look and vibe that you like want to get behind, you know? And you don't see like any ego in it either too, you know? Like Ralph's is like, I met him at the yard sale after like, you know, just seeing him on the internet like everybody else.
Dylan Miller Jr.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, he looks like Dylan. He looks so much like Dylan. It's crazy. But then he starts talking, and you're like, definitely not Dylan. He's like, hey, man, how are you? And then he's like so genuine and stoked and happy. And it's funny, like the people that don't ask for it are usually the ones that end up getting like finding the best path in the sport. Like if you're just gung-ho every, you know, oh, I deserve this. Let me call and try and get a better deal. Like those are the ones that end up like getting frustrated and leaving the sport.
With them, you know? Yeah.
It's like the ones that are just genuinely loving it and crushing it. We can all see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can see it, and you're like, that's the one that's probably worth going for. You know, if we're looking for one new team rider, it's like, who's the one that's just crushing it? Good attitude, has some sort of interesting edge, or, you know, something quirky that like, and like Instagram will tell you pretty fast, right? It's like he posts something that goes nuts, you know, like, you know, someone else posts something that's also pretty awesome and it gets nothing. And it's kind of like, there's a natural energy that everybody's attracted to, you know, and I don't know, that's kind of
speaks for itself.
Kind of what you need to have.
So in this influencer era, where do you see the team rider and the team aspect of wakeboard brands, you know, continuing to go in the future? Do you see it changing at all, or? I mean, are you going to start sending boards to, you know, influencers or whatever, or do you?
No, I don't think we've been hit up in the past. Like, oh, you know, it's funny. Like in the early days, it'd be like, well, this kid's got 10K on Instagram. Maybe we should, big number. Maybe we should send him a board, you know? And now it's like it's so hard to trust the internet anyways. Be like, this guy's got 50,000 followers, but it's like, that's what it says online. But
Let's take a little deeper
Could all
dive.
be bullshit. Like I've
Yeah.
definitely heard some things from different riders where they're like, yeah, I bought a bunch of followers because it was a good look for like my sponsors. Like I've heard that.
I mean, I buy all my followers.
Yeah.
Nice. No, I haven't bought a single one. No, I'm kidding.
We never did that.
It's been a thing though.
With Slingshot, we never have bought followers.
Yeah.
We've never. I mean, we started like in COVID. We started having to do like paid ads on Instagram just because like everybody did, and it was like, dude, there's
if you don't do it, you get left behind.
There's way too much stuff like that we got to sell or things like that. Like but we never ran ads for like, let's get more followers.
Yeah.
So like the Slingshot following is 100% like organic and core, and like, it's maybe half of what some of the other brands are, some maybe even less than that, So I look at some of the other brands and I'm like, I don't know that the industry is that much bigger than, I think like our number is definitely the core. That's the core community of wakeboarders.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to me because like the following number to me means nothing. It's like all about the engagement. Like how are people engaging with your shit? If nobody's engaging with your stuff, I don't care if you have 1 million followers. It's not going to do anybody any good.
It doesn't matter. It's just like a vanity number at the top, But we've never been like intimidated or felt the need to like, Hyperlight's got more, Liquid Force's got more. What do we do to like look better? Like it's just like, let's just be authentic. That'll always come through.
Yeah.
And plus I think it's all way better in real life than on Instagram anyways. It's like, I feel like we're getting back to that now where it's just like, let's just put this crap down and like go ride at the cable and like have fun together. And, like the cables want that. Everybody wants that, right? It's like, instead of looking at our phone, let's have something cool to do and let's go do it. And like we make wakeboards and all these different boards. It's like the coolest thing we could do marketing wise is like invite people to come out and do it.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it or show them someone who's so much cooler than her or cooler than them, or like hire some influencer that, is claiming that they're getting massive reach outside of our sport. It's like if you just do the thing,
I think it's fun.
Yeah. That's why we're all here anyways. So
that's a good point.
A little less looking at it or focusing on it on a screen and more just getting out and enjoying it, you know?
That's the good thing. I feel like people all get hung up on this Instagram, social media shit, and I do too. I'm sure everybody does, but it's like nothing's ever going to feel as good as actually wakeboarding. Posting a clip about wakeboarding or watching a clip about wakeboarding isn't going to feel as good as actually doing the damn thing. So we're getting away from the damn phone.
Well, and there's no better feeling than like going to a cable and like meeting somebody and being like, damn, like, oh, I didn't know Gavin was so cool, or I've never met like Ralph's. He looked good on the internet, but then I met him at the cable and he's a whole different person than what I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know he looks like Dylan Miller. Oh, I didn't know he seems younger than I thought, and like, oh, he's so bubbly and happy. This is, it's like, there's nothing better than like coming home with a new friend, being like, dude, I went to the yard sale and I met 3 new people that are awesome. And like, we're probably going to,
and they're real people.
Yeah.
And this is a real thing that is happening.
We're gonna, now we're probably go talk some shit on social media with each other, but it's like, you can't eliminate it entirely, but it's like, oh, I have some new friends. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So another serious note, direct to consumer. So, the more industry people I have on, I'm curious on talking about this. And I used to work at a dealer and a retailer, and I talked with Bill Porter about this, who owns Performance here. And the landscape has changed. There's no denying that, about brands still have relationships with dealers, but there was a certain turning point. I feel like it was kind of COVID where we're selling direct to consumer. And I guess I'm just curious your thoughts on that change in the future, what that looks like, that relationship.
It's a tricky one. And it definitely, I think COVID, brought it to like a boiling point in a way where it's like wakeboarding before the internet was as big as it is, right? It's like before we all had the ability to do everything on our phone, it's like we used to go to Surf Expo and show all of our gear to the dealers, and that's the first place you could see it. You couldn't see it in online first. That was the reason people got together, right? And we used to have dealers everywhere. That was the source of your information. Like you go to the pro shop and you find out that Darren Shapiro just landed the double flip, or like.
Well,
whatever.
you saw it on the lake earlier,
Yeah, but I probably went to performance and then talked about it,
Yeah.
and then somebody else heard it, and then it like came out as a sequence in the magazine soon after. So like those were your information hubs. So that drew everybody to every dealer. So the dealer was the hot spot always. And that was the cool, dude. We used to blow up like performance. We would blow them up, their phone every day. Hey, is the new video in? Like, is Mayday? We heard Mayday is going to be, and we would call every day for like months. We would take turns calling, but it was like the pro shop was your source of information. And it was like,
They had the key.
the coolest. It was like the heyday, and they just knew everything about everything. They knew all the brands. But now on the, because the internet's become what it has, it's like you can converse directly with a brand, or you can converse directly with a rider.
Yeah.
And like, it's a tough thing to navigate, and like, we always want to, I mean, if it was possible to just sell the amount of wakeboards that we needed to sell through dealers only, we would love that. That'd be amazing, and it's not like we're being greedy with the amount of boards we're building, like, like let's build some ungodly amount and then just, blast it everywhere. Like, we're being as reasonable as we can with like what we build. But unfortunately, like when COVID came, it was like everybody got in a tough spot. They just kept building wakeboard. I think everybody thought that the industry was growing like at some crazy pace, but it was probably more like everybody bought a new wakeboard at the same time, So it's like, rather than it being staggered and like, oh yeah, you buy your new Slingshot board every couple of years, it was like, well, sweet, I just got a check for a couple grand from the
Government,
from
and
the
I can't
tax
go watch a
man.
movie inside at
Yeah,
a movie
and
theater.
you're
I
like,
gotta go wakeboard.
Fuck it, I'll buy a new Slingshot. It's like, or a new any brand, right? So it's like everybody bought new everything at the same time. And so all the industries were like, dang, we're killing it. We're back.
I'd love to talk to all these people, because who didn't see this not being sustainable?
I know.
Like, it's crazy.
So that's how it started.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're getting all the dealers asking, hey, we're out of this. We need more of this. Hey, we got to get this. And we're like, damn, okay, make more. And then suddenly, like, it all piles up. And then they're like, yes,
it turns
they're
off.
like, yeah, no, we've got everything we need now. And then we're like, oh, shit, we got a pile over here too. And then, and I think every brand went down the same path of like, we got to move this inventory, and like, probably unfortunately ended up like stuffing dealers full of it, every bit that they could handle. Right. And so everybody's gills, it was just overflowing stuff everywhere. You know what I mean? And then at some point it was just like, business wise, it's like, you got to move the gear. And I think that's where a lot of the brands had to start marketing, like closeout gear or last year's gear or whatever. But I don't think it was a sexy look for any brand. Nobody wanted to like look that way, like last thing you want is like, here's a board for half off, There's parts where I was like, let's just fucking burn them. Let's get rid of them. let's get every wakeboard that like, like you go to a cable and a lot of people, there's like hand-me-downs going on. Like, it's like, oh, you see this guy's and then this one and then this one. And some of them, you're like, I can't believe that thing's still going. I mean, it's great because they're being resourceful, and it's like, there's that side of it. But the other side, it's like, okay, we just need to start fresh.
Yeah.
Everybody needs.
You need a new deck, kid.
Yeah, let's be real, dude. And I'm guilty too. I have a snowboard that's my brother gave to me, and it's over 10 years old.
Brother.
But I don't go snowboarding. I'm like,
Well, there you go. If you don't do it, then you need a new one.
I used to a little bit, but I really just don't go snowboarding.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm probably the problem in snowboarding. Snowboarding is probably dying to sell me a new
Snowboarding doesn't have a
snowboard.
problem, dude. They got too many damn people on the freaking ski hill these days.
Yeah.
So you don't got to worry about that.
Anyway,
But, I mean, okay.
I think overall, I mean, there's in the future, there's got to be some sort of balance of the, because the customer has this need. We all have it where it's like, dude, I need this.
Well, that's the reality.
First
You're
move
operating reality.
is go to my phone and look at it.
Google Slingshot, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Buy now.
And wherever it shows up first, you're probably going to click, and then you're probably going to do a little bit more searching. Where's the cheapest one I could find?
Yeah, Slingshot wakeboard cheapest.
Yeah, I don't know how you could. Yeah, but it's like you're gonna look at 2 or 3 options. You're like, this one's the cheapest. I don't really care who the dealer is. I just need it to be here as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And
You
a lot
have
of
shit reviews. All right.
a lot of people don't have the luxury of having a pro shop in their town, you know?
Most people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a lot of them are stuck with that online situation anyways, which is where like in the past, like Bywake like crushed it. They were like the biggest and first like online like dealer that just set a new standard, and every other dealer was like, dude, I don't even have a website. I got to get a website, you know? And so it's like they forced everybody to catch up, but the whole, like the technology thing is just moving so much faster than any of us can really like, you know, could have expected. Right. So it's just, you watch everybody. I look at my, you know, like friends, family, everybody. It's like, dude, we are so trained by this freaking phone to like, I want it tomorrow. You know?
Amazon ruined it for everybody.
You're like,
but somebody was going to ruin it.
This won't be here till Wednesday. That's bullshit.
Yeah. That's unacceptable.
Yeah. But hopefully there's a point now where like, if the retailer provides value, which hopefully they can, right? Because they have like if I rolled into a retailer and you were working there, I'd be like, all right, I'm buying whatever this dude's going to tell me.
I don't think people are going into retailers.
They're just not even going in.
That's the whole thing. So where's the value that the retailers
Yeah.
can provide?
Well, I think there's the worry that they're going to strike out too. It's like I might drive across town and they won't have the size I want.
That's my mentality nowadays.
You know?
Not with this industry, but with if I'm buying something else.
With everything.
With everything. I'm not going to drive somewhere.
Dude,
I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to call somebody.
Well,
what are you talking about?
and a lot of times you get somebody that doesn't know what's going
They don't know
on
what they're talking about,
anyways.
so I just wasted all my time.
Yeah.
And
so it's a tough balance. So there's got to be a really good, you know, there's got to be a really good online strategy, I think, for every retailer.
Well, the one thing the retailers can do is they can carry all the brands, right? So that's a huge leg up on Slingshot, Liquid Force, Ronix, Hyperlight. They can only, you guys can only carry your brand.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's
they can be a center for
big thing.
Multiple, you know, I mean, the boat dealers do good because people got to go in and see the boat. Like
you're not gonna buy a boat.
That's too big of a purchase to like go without taking the time to go check it out. You know what I mean? But if you already know exactly what wakeboard you want, because you're, you know, like you hit up the Space Mob or you hit up a rider and
watch a YouTube video.
Yeah. You watch a million reviews and they're like, you're like, okay, I know that I need this size and this. So that's the value that the retailer used to be the only one that could provide. And now they're competing with the internet, which some do a great job. A lot of retailers do an amazing job of being like if you take like, out of like, this is just one that I know through Slingshot. They're not even wakeboarding, but Real Water Sports is the dealer for like all, like for mostly wind sports. But dude, they make review videos of every product that like blow up, you know, like their reviews are like, that dealer is the trusted voice of like foiling, for example, you know, and in wakeboarding, there's,
nobody comes to mind, which
nobody's coming to mind like that. If you go like best wakeboard for, you know, cable riding, whatever,
you might get a blog.
If that's your search, like you're
AI
not finding a whole lot, you know? So it's like, if every time you did that, you saw the same face or something, you're like, damn, this is my trusted.
It's almost like the retailer needs to build a brand itself
it's crazy. Yeah.
You know, authority.
They need to be like, they got to have the edge on, they got to be educated, hands down. They got to know everything, you know. It's hard. It's
super hard.
It's an interesting and tough world, you know. And like even this week, like we've got a couple meetings that are like these exact conversations. So I think we're all trying to navigate it.
I mean,
I don't really have a good answer, but it's like we love everybody that loves our sport, and we want to, you know, like a rising tide's going to float all boats. So it's like the more that we can all do together to like talk about it and not ignore it, you know, but like, what's a way that works for everybody? Like, how do we have some sort of hybrid, you know, is probably like the $1 million question right now in most retail environments, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a plug to the place I worked, Wake House, and the one thing I will say that some retailers do, as long as you find a good one, right, is they have great customer service. So in any off chance something shows up broken or they don't have in stock whatever they have, you know, if you're working with a good retailer, and I'm not saying the brands don't do that, but you guys might not have that.
But we don't have the relationship. That's a huge thing where it's like you can, if in a local market, if you can build that relationship with the dealer, Yeah, but there's definitely more of a risk of like, dude, I just bought this board offline. I don't even know who sold it to me actually. And then you have an issue, and then you're like,
nightmare to deal with. I might just be out $400 now.
Yeah. You're like, wait, who do I hit up? Like, this is clearly a defect, or it's not on me. Like, I'm trying the brand, but the brand's getting 1 million of those because, you know, if people aren't going through a dealer, then they're calling the brand, and the brand probably can't handle all the,
because they're not.
So the customer service is where the retailer wins, right? And just the trust factor of like, hey, you know, this guy's going to take care of me if I, you know.
Yeah, and that's on the retailer to do in the first place. Yeah. But if you find a retailer that does do that, or a dealer, you know, I would definitely say that you should stick with that, because if they're taking care of you, take care of them. It's okay.
But I've definitely lately, like, I've been doing way more like retail shopping myself, just for like random
little
like,
retail therapy.
Clothes. Well, no. I'm just saying, like, when I need something, I'm like, it would be really nice to just go get the like running shoes that I need. Like, I've started running recently because now I'm older, and I'm like,
how far are you running? 5K?
Not far.
Okay,
I can do a 5K.
What's the 5K time?
My son got into running, and so I like started doing it with him, and I've paid like full retail. I bought On Clouds running shoes, and I was like, I feel like such a freaking dork in any shoe that's not like a skate shoe.
Yeah, same.
But I can't do it. Like Nike.
I don't want to be seen in them.
Nike's, Reeboks, like all the brands. I'm like, I can't do it, dude. But for some reason, like the On Clouds, I was like, there's something interesting that I could kind of like maybe like, and I went and I just I shopped them for like a week online, but I ultimately went into a retailer in Charleston and I bought, what's that?
You did the opposite of what most people do.
Yeah.
They'll try them on.
I didn't press the button. I was like, no, I'm going to go, because like I'm sick of like everything you get a fucking plastic bag and another bag, and you get and like the pile of crap is just like,
it's insane.
It's insane. And like, say you buy something from Amazon, a lot of times it's so cheap. You're like, if it doesn't work, you're just like, whatever, it's garbage. It's not even like, I can't figure out to get the $15 back, like doing the return and all that. Like, it's just hard to deal with.
Time is money, you know?
So it's almost like I'd rather just go and make sure it's right and then buy it.
Well, especially with things like footwear, where that's, to me, people who buy bindings online without trying them on.
Yeah,
like, that blows my mind.
That's kind of risky.
The board I get,
the
bindings though, dude.
Yeah,
I at least got to try them on.
Well,
if I haven't ridden them before, it's like, damn.
Totally, and every brand's a little different, you know.
And shoes, I would never buy shoes online. Unless I already knew that they would fit.
Unless you knew that.
Like, if I'm rebuying
like
a
it's
pair
same
of shoes,
brand,
I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's...
So, anyways, but also part of it's just like it's cool. It's like a nostalgic thing. Like, I mean, going into performance is rad, you know, or going into these pro shops is fun.
And maybe that's another thing that like brings it back.
It smells so good, or
the
it's
culture and the atmosphere of it. Like,
maybe they need to do more like more like events, things like that. Like,
hey, we're solving their problems right for them, dude.
Yeah, I got another way to solve that problem for them too.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I think I know what you're teasing right now.
Speaking, have you heard anything? Are you? What am I?
I guess, let's not tease anybody else. I was going to ask if you're ever going to film Lipsmack 2, or if anything like that's going to happen in the future.
We won't call it that, but yeah.
Lipsmacked? Double Lipsmack?
No. But yeah, this is probably a good place to say it first. We're going to do a new Slingshot team video. It's happening. It's already started to happen.
Oh, it's already happening.
Yeah. So
the filming has begun.
Yeah, it's begun. And the whole theme of it is like bringing people back to just like, not that, you can't just always like go back to the way it used to be, and like think it's going to work, but it's like
bring aspects of it.
It's just rad having something that, like going to a premiere. That was one of the coolest things.
There's
coming
no reason
up in wakeboarding, dude. There was
the
coolest premiere parties. Like that was the every wakeboarder will tell you, like going to the Wake Awards and getting on the stage, and like it was the coolest feeling. It like validated like the sport we do. It was like, wow, this is worth a damn. And going to a movie premiere and like whoever made the movie getting up and introducing it to everybody, it's an amazing feeling, And then we did that with Lipsmack. Like we did like a movie tour, or like a premiere tour. Shredtown did it with Drop the Gun. They traveled around with Bear. Maybe Bear was with them for parts of it, but he kind of inspired the whole thing where they would like park and do like a projector and just project on like the side of a building. And everybody, all the wakeboarders would come out and just like bring a lawn chair and sit in the parking lot.
Lawn chair and a case of beer. And
Dude, it was so awesome. And then everybody would end up going to the bar or something afterwards. Yeah. But so every team rider's been asking for it. And I mean, Lipsmack made us that put us on the map in a cool way too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's been a long time since, and like we've all kind of been drugged through this like internet, like saga of like, oh, I don't know, maybe people just want short videos and this and that, you know. But now we're like, screw it. We don't care. We're gonna do what we want, not necessarily what the internet wants, you know. And like we're gonna make a real full-length video again. Wes is gonna help produce it, and kind of like help take charge on just like organizing crews. It's gonna be a lot of winching, maybe all winching. I don't know. We'll see. But the biggest thing, the biggest plan, or the thing that I think
it's kind of pivoting
would be the biggest value of it all is only showing it at like in real life. Like come to the cable, come to a deal. Like we'll only show
set
it.
up a bunch of different.
We'll only show it at parties or at premieres. So we might not even ever put it on the internet. So it'll be like you want to watch it? Come watch it.
Yeah.
Let's hang out.
I like that. And I think I think that's exactly what I'd love to see, you know, other crews and brands. La Familia is doing it. I don't know what their plan is.
Yeah.
For the role. I'm sure they're going to do premieres. And I think
dude, why would if you live in Orlando and you're like, La Familia is having a party and showing a new video.
Yeah.
That's the only place you can see it. Be like, well, I know what we're doing this weekend.
Yeah. And I guess it kind of all hangs on, does the crew and the people doing it, do you trust that it's going to be a banger video?
Yeah.
Because if you do, then you're going to go. And that's what needs to happen. It sounds like that's what's kind of happening. I'm huge on the premieres, dude. I think the premieres need to come back.
Well, you've talked about it for a long time.
I just believe in it so much because
and maybe part of it's even probably been inspired by you.
Just shoving it down people's throats.
Yeah, well, okay.
Until I'm talking people into
Sounds like this is what people want. No, but I've always known like another team video, like every rider every year is like, when are we doing the next movie? And it's just so hard to justify like.
Well, it's a big undertaking, right?
Yeah, it's a huge thing to do, you know? And it's like, dude, I don't know if we can, how do we justify sinking that much cash into something that might not be popular anymore, you know? But I think we're going for it. We don't care.
Yeah, and
and everybody's going and doing it anyways. All the riders are traveling and shooting and wanting to, you know, it's what like makes it fun for them.
Getting content is happening.
It makes it makes them feel like connected to each other and to the brand. And so we're like, let's just unify all these efforts.
Yeah.
Give it hell for a whole year, and then in 2026 we'll
roll it out.
We're gonna get together and we're gonna hang out and watch some wakeboarding.
My whole thing is, dude, people like getting together, drinking beers, and talking shit about wakeboarding together. Not talking shit, but talking about wakeboarding. And the premiere is the catalyst to get people to do that.
Exactly.
So all you need is a little nudge to get people to come together and do that.
Yeah, they don't need much of a
little
reason.
nudge.
Yeah,
you just need a little nudge. So.
Dude, like even like when we go to the yard sale, like it is so much fun. Like I camp there. When I get there, I don't leave. Like every minute that I leave Valdosta or the actual cable, I'm like, dude, I'm missing something. I gotta get back. Yeah. Like the people that go there and stay in a hotel, I'm like, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
Like if you leave at 10 at night and go home and go to bed at your hotel, like you just missed like 50% of the yard
I did that
sale.
1 year, full regret.
Dude, no, yeah. I want to be there till the bitter end. And like, even if I can't hang anymore, I want to go in my tent and still hear what's like, oh, it sounds like Daniel Grant's DJing now.
Hear a firework go off over there.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, those fireworks sound like they're getting closer.
Somebody just honked. Oh boy.
I'm going to get in my truck now. But yeah, dude, we got to get more. Imagine that. You're like, hey, you're
community.
We're going to performance. We're going to watch this movie. We're going to Wake House, or we're going to wherever, you know what I mean? Like you can only see this by going to the place that believes in the sport. And like the vibe is contagious when people get together. Like when I go home and sit in my office, you know, and like stare at the laptop and do the emails and all that, it's like all the creative ideas disappear, you know? You're like, damn. But the minute you start talking like we're talking, or like with the athletes, or you go somewhere together, it's like, boom, like the buzz starts rolling and great ideas start flowing. And I mean, that's probably the coolest part about wakeboarding is like the bullshitting and the community and the just hanging out and,
Well, dude, that's part of it where it's like if the premieres come back, one friend says to another who doesn't really wakeboard, it's like, dude, you got to come to this premiere. I know you don't really wakeboard, but it's so fun. The people there are sick.
And then they end up at a cable.
Cool. And then the next thing you know, that's like another aspect to growing the sport. People are talking about pushing people off the dock. That's one.
It could be a skateboarder that goes to Valdosta, and then they're like, oh, there's a skate park out front here. And then they start going and skating there. And then they're like, well, everybody else is wakeboarding. Why am I the only one skating?
It's fucking hot out here, man.
Let me go try that. yeah. And then like suddenly new things are happening, So there's got to be a reason to go, So
I'm stoked you guys are doing it.
That's the secret. Cables, retailers, anything. It's like, it's got to be a place there's got to be something special and a reason to go there.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into another, are you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, just buying something, it probably, that can happen anywhere now on the internet. True. So it's like, you got to have there's got to be an experience beyond just buying a product.
Experience beyond click and buy and having it delivered same day. All right. Before we get to another guest question, I think we run through setup. So you got one board here. Do you ride this on boat and cable? What's the deal? What's going on?
I brought a native 150, and this is too small for cable. I ride a bigger on cable.
All right. How tall are you?
6'1". Okay. And on the boat, native 150 is my jam. It reminds me of that original recoil board way back in the day. It's kind of got some similarities to it. So that's for boat, but if I'm riding cable, I'm riding something softer, longer, like maybe a 156 Bearden. I kind of take anything these days. We go to a shoot and the boards are all getting passed around, and I'm just like,
pick something up.
Give me the biggest one.
Yeah.
But I really like a super, super soft cable board. It's like so much fun. And the narrow stance is like, it just changed the feeling of wakeboarding for me. So it's super fun and fresh,
So you go narrow stance, soft board.
Yeah.
All right.
It just feels fun, like being in the middle of it. It's all springy, and you're standing right on top of like the most like live, alive part of the board. So, and then it just, like doing a 270 or something with a skinny stance and a long board is like a completely different experience.
Yeah, it's true.
It's crazy. You're like, whoa, this feels like a new sport.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, on the boat, I go a little wider.
What stance, I guess, are you
fins on the boat? I don't know. I'm just somewhere, I'm just somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it's more ducked. Sometimes it's less.
It's kind of my vibe.
I throw them on, and I am not.
Kind of eyeball it.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, that looks good. That'll work. And I'm not convinced that like 1 centimeter difference or something is going to be a problem.
Next team shoot.
Yeah,
I need you to do this, Johnny D.
Yeah,
he says he's convinced 1 tick on any stance he has, he'll notice a difference without even you telling him.
That's
no chance.
No way.
No chance he notices a difference.
No way.
So next time,
just
move it 1 degree or
just
whatever.
Give it a little tap.
And then after he goes and rides, just see if he says anything. Because he won't. I'll put
guaranteed he won't.
Guaranteed he won't.
Yeah. No, I'm actually we had right when we came out with this boot system, like with the K9 mounting, we had a couple people call us and they were like mind blown on like how to get but how do I know it's not more to the toe side than the heel side? Or how do I, like, they were just like, couldn't handle the lack of the freedom, and like, I was like, man, you put it wherever feels good. I mean, obviously you don't want it to be all the way on the toes or all the way on the heels. And there's some notches and like indicators like to help you make a match. So they'll be exactly the same, like you can ride like 5 and 5 on our system here where like there's notches and numbers, but it's not necessarily like that's 15 degrees. It's more so just like put it where, look down at your feet when you're standing on the ground, be like, how do they look?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's put that on the board, and that's probably gonna be the most comfortable stance, you know?
What rope length and boat speed are we talking behind the boat?
As slow as possible, as slow as you can go, because I'm so used to going, slower on the cable wakeboarding and then much slower on the boat, like surfing and foiling. So when I go wakeboarding, I'm like, holy cow, this is
Randall out there,
dude. It feels so fast. But like today, I was at 22 miles an hour. And
would you say that would be
70? It was
typical?
probably only 70 feet, but it was like a different boat, like a different model from Nautique. This is a little narrower wake. So yeah, I don't know. It was probably not like if I'm on my boat at home.
Yeah, on your what
my boat, 22.8 probably, and then the ropes 75.
Okay.
Yeah,
pretty standard. I feel like if I was
it definitely all got like slower and shorter.
Yeah,
it was too crazy. But when I was younger and more into it, it was like we were trying to be like Randy Harris. We're going long rope, dude. And you get back there and the wake's crumbling. Like there's no more wake left. It's just like white water. And every time you hit it, you're like punching through it and getting splashed in the face. And you're like, this is not working.
This ain't working.
It's not working for me. So, well, yeah, we wanted to look that way, but it was like, I don't know, dude. He's still doing a different sport than us.
It always has been. And if he rides again, he always will be.
Yeah,
all right.
Sure.
I think we dive into another guest question from Adam Sinclair.
Uh-oh.
Actually, we got two. So we'll do a little back to back here.
What's going on, McKee, Hunter, Grab Matters Patreon? Hope everyone's doing well on the pods rolling. Wanted to ask a couple questions, more so from the project side. You know, McKee, you've been an athlete for roughly the same amount of time as you've also been a brand manager and athlete. So from those different perspectives, what would you say was your favorite project that you've got to work on? One as an athlete and then one as a brand manager. And then don't want to put you on the spot, but what was the worst that you had worked on as an athlete or as a brand manager, and why?
Well, like a two-parter, but a four-parter in the same way.
Yeah. Wait, so
best project as an athlete and as a brand manager. So
okay.
And then
best project as an athlete.
Yeah. So maybe coolest place you got to go, or what? I don't know, something like that. Iowa City, maybe.
Where Iowa City?
I don't know. Just kidding. That's the most recent video I watched of you was the pull.
Gosh, that's an old
Iowa City.
That's pretty cool.
A nice stale fishback one.
That was cool with Kyle
Walton. Drove all the way from Michigan.
Kyle Walton, the wake skater, and then the other Kyle
Murphy.
Yeah, I was blanking on his name for a second. That guy was badass.
Yeah,
he was cool. Really good style. He had a sick method. Probably like one of the best.
Yeah.
Going back to the method. But
yeah, favorite project as a
rider.
rider.
Project as a rider. Does that mean like a video, I guess? Or
it could be anything. I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything you were invited to. Did you go to that golf course one, the Winch golf course event? Did you go to that? Or was that before your time?
No, I do remember that though. I can remember some of the worst.
Yeah,
go worst.
Then.
Come
go
to
worst. Come on, let's go worst then.
That's the freaking parking lot rail jams, dude. Were so bad, and we all got dragged into like doing them all. And the farther you would go, like the worse. Like you'd end up at some boat dealer or somewhere. It's like, yeah, we made a winch rail. Like you got to come hit it, and you're like, oh no, like I'm here and like I'm the pro. And they built this shit that is like not happening, not going to work. And you're like, but they put so much energy into it. Like they're not satisfied until somebody slides across this thing.
Yeah.
You know,
need a full pull.
I remember one though. I did one in like, somewhere in like Iowa. No, not Iowa, Idaho, out like west, but in like that kind of, nowhere zone of like, at least for our sport, there's not a lot of activity out there. This one was like, it was tiny and they had none of the winches worked right. Everything was wrong. And I was like, well, I got to try it. Then they had like some local kid stoked to do it and he was somehow pulling it off. So I was like, shit, now I got to do it, but I got to like do it better than this local kid that showed up. And it was just like a up flat bar or something. And there's a bunch of people watching, and the first hit I hit it was like something went wrong on the up ramp, and I landed on my ass on the flat, and it was like dry on the flat, and it literally grabbed one butt cheek, and the other kept going, and I landed in the pool like holding my ass with both hands, like I ripped it. It's bleeding.
Toast.
I was like, dude. Next stop is the hospital.
Stitches.
Oh yeah, it was literally, that's where my head was going. And I'm like, and there's a crowd of people standing around watching, waiting for me to come up for air. And like, I'm thinking the pool's full of blood and it was terrible. I'm like, how in the world did we get here? Like, why is this?
I used to be doing tantrum to blinds out on Lake Butler.
Why
in
are
the
we
morning.
doing
It was
this?
butter, and now I'm fucking splitting my ass.
That was
open.
one of the worst memories for sure. But luckily there was no stitch. It was just
severe pain.
A severe pain. And just in the weirdest, most embarrassing scenario.
Yeah,
You know?
I can see that.
That was bad. Let's see. That was as a rider.
Yeah.
So then as a brand, bad project. Nothing's coming to mind yet, but something will. On the good side.
Yeah, I mean, a
probably,
place you travel, I guess. Good side.
Yeah, probably the coolest. I'd say this was before I was a brand guy for Slingshot. I was a rider, but maybe I was always like working with Slingshot a little bit, but like when I was in my mind still just a pro rider traveling, we did a trip to Australia for Slingshot, and the video was called I think it was called the Out of Office Reply or Auto Reply. It was called. It was a series, and it's somewhere out there. But we had so we went to Australia, convinced Slingshot to like pay for the trip. Ollie went, me, Ollie, Jeff House, Patrick Weiland was there filming, and we had somebody else with us. And we went to the Perth Wake Park. The whole trip was sick. We went to like Yarrawonga, the river with all the trees in it. It's real famous, like a famous boat riding one. We went and rode there with Daniel Watkins. He was like our dealer for Slingshot. And Daniel Watkins had not wakeboarded like in a year or something. And he hit a freaking double back roll off the double up, like first try. He went out and wakeboarded for like 10 minutes. Hey, give me a double up. Hit a double back roll. And we were like, holy.
Typical Australian.
Dude, it was amazing. So the trip was awesome. We had tons of fun, moments. But we had one day where we were at like we went to Perth Wake Park, and their full cable was booked. Like they get tons of like customers. All their line gets wild, or at least when I was there. And it seems like they've kept up like
Australia has a very strong scene, man.
A huge interest in their park, right?
Yeah.
But they had built a bi-level, and they had nothing. They had not built any rails on it yet. It was just a ramp, and they built a top pool and a bottom pool, and like the plan was to build a bunch of rails and make it like a advanced thing. And but the full cable was booked. We were there to film, and we're like, well, shit, we can't even get through this line. And then they were like, hey guys, we got so much action here. Like we're going to slow the cable down and all that. So like maybe you could go play on the system too, which had like nothing on it except for just this, basically just a massive ramp, just a transition. It almost looked like a spillway, but it was like plastic material going up it. And I was like, shit, we got to do something, And everybody, Windsor was there too. Christian Robinson was there, and everybody's like, the day's over. We can't do anything with this. And I was like, I led the charge on like getting us down there. I was like, dude, Slingshot just spent a bunch of money on us doing this. Like to get here, we gotta do something every day. We gotta like keep pushing it, and like we can't sit here and do nothing. So I was like, well, I'll hit it. It looks kind of fun. Like maybe we could like get a little air off the up ramp or whatever. And I started like hitting it, and Windsor hit it a little bit, and everybody's just like couldn't figure out what to do, and they're getting over it and starting to get kind of pissy, and the mood's changing. And I was just like, man, I'm like, screw this. Like I'm going to freaking show these dudes. Like I'm just going to keep going and figure something out. And there was like a ruffle pipe or a corrugated like black plastic pipe just sitting nearby. And we grabbed that and wedged it into the top. So it was like a
pole jam,
basically, way back. Like it was like, I feel like not that many people, we probably didn't even know it was called a pole jam at that time. We was like, whoa, it's kind of an aggressive angle. But we hit it and we were like, whoa, dude, this thing like is giving mad pop. So like we set it up, and I did like maybe something off of it, and just tried to do like a 360 and got booted and like blew it. And then I was like, whoa, that was aggressive.
Yeah.
And then And then Jeff House was there. He's like, dude, do a roll to reaver off that thing. And I was like, okay. And went up and did that and got so sent. It was insane. And then I was like, oh, okay, that was freaking huge. And like Jeff kind of was looking at me, and it was like right when the double flip was happening. And I had landed one in Orlando, and I was like, that was probably my proudest career. Like that was like, just like, yeah. Cause I had a back surgery before that. And I went through a phase where I was like, I'm never going to wakeboard again. I'm screwed. It's over. And after my back surgery and after like having our kids and all that, I probably did my best wakeboarding then, which was really cool to come back. But so on this Australia trip, I was like, dude, I'm going to go for broke here. Like, this is so unlike me, but I was like,
I wasn't planning any of this.
I was like, I was just pissed. I was just pissed at these guys because they weren't doing shit. And I'm trying to prove to them that like we could do something here. And I'm pulling things out of my ass, like whatever, like we'll make something happen. And everybody's just bored and kind of, and then once I did that and got sent, I was like, House looked at me and he knew that he's like, you have to double this, and I was like, oh, it's freaking huge. And when I tried like 3 or 4 and just was like, dude, my knee's going to go, something's going to happen. But I ended up pulling it off, like pole jammed and then double rolled down it. And when I landed, it was like the best feeling ever. It's like, oh my God. And the guys on the dock were like, trick of the year, like it was the coolest hype moment ever. Like how we turned it around from just like sour, shitty, like day wasted to like, whoa. And it was funny. I looked down at my boots. We used to have the tracks on the boards then. My boots had slid all the way out from like all the attempts. It was like, they started here and they were like, every landing were like, psh, psh, all the way to the freaking finish, So that was, I don't know. That was like a special for me. I was like, that might've been the coolest thing I've ever done with wakeboarding,
That's a good lesson there too.
Yeah. And it was just cool. It was
never
like,
give up.
I kind of just did it out of frustration. I was like, come on, guys.
We're going to get a clip here.
Yeah.
At least one.
So that's a good one. That was a big, I mean, not a project, but that was a special moment, I guess, for a video project. He's looking for like something that fell apart or
I don't know,
an event that went wrong. That's what he said.
I'm sure it's Adam. I don't know what he's he's poking
what's he talking about?
We'll get him back out at some point.
He was the first one on your
he was the
show.
Very
That's
first
pretty.
One.
That was pretty. I remember he told me he's like, I'm doing this podcast, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, all right. So,
do you know what happened on that episode?
What?
5 minutes in, his power went out. No, it was more than 5 minutes in. It was like 15 minutes in. His power went out. Everything turned off. We were in his garage.
No way.
And I was like, maybe there's a bad omen. Maybe I shouldn't do this.
It could all ended right. It could
all ended right there. SD cards exploded.
I can't think of anything that's really like a project that's gone
that's a good one.
Bad. Maybe, I don't know. There's probably an event or something that I don't know. Yeah, nothing's jumping out.
Yeah. All right, I got another another guest question from Wes.
Hey Hunter, hope you and Jeff are having a good chat. I just want to ask Jeff, what's up with the beef between him and Patty Weiland, dude? Because I've heard Patrick talk some shit about Jeff, so maybe it's time for Jeff to talk some shit about Pat. How about that?
Wow.
This is balls in your court right now.
Aggressive. No, not aggressive.
All right.
That's pretty funny. Wes pretty much, he asked me the most difficult questions almost every time I talk to him.
That's his MO.
I love talking to Wes, but it's always risky. I'm like, this could be real fun and we could accomplish a lot, or he's going to pin me on something and then it'll be like an hour later, But yeah, I'll answer it. I think I mentioned Patrick on that, that trip to Australia. That was actually from one of the points where, I mentioned I was frustrated that day. It was like everybody, the mood would just turn sour quick. Like we all traveled together a lot, and like working with him, I met Patrick through Alliance. He ended up working for them at some point. Like he started in wake skating and then got into working oh, he's working at Alliance. And then suddenly I was like, dude, this guy crushes it. His videos are amazing. And he's like lightning fast. I've never met a video editor that was that fast.
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow, he's like he's hungry, you know? So I started like separately hiring him to do videos for Slingshot. And then that grew into, it helped us. Like, I mean, he and I were a freaking team for a couple good years for sure, like several. And we would pump out videos like insane, you know, like Slingshot became known as like this video brand that's just constantly putting out new stuff. So like, I wouldn't change anything going back. Like we crushed it together, you know, but we, you know, it's crazy the way it turned out, because I thought after all these years, it would have maybe been a little bit more tame or civil, I guess.
You get older, you know.
I reached out for like the 10-year anniversary to him of Lipsmack. Like, hey man, you know, we're gonna celebrate this thing and put it out there, and like, you know, maybe we should all do like a phone call or do something fun to like promote it. You know, like you were the, you know, the editor or whatever. I don't remember what the titles were, but you know,
integral part of this whole thing.
Yeah, it's like we all did this together, you know, and so like it would be weird if we left you out. And I reached out and I just got fucking lit up. I was like, whoa, dude, it's been 10 years. It seems like nothing's changed. But ultimately what happened was we were almost like a couple, dude. Like, and that Australia trip, like every day, everywhere we went, everybody's fucking bickering and mad and like talking crap to each other. And I'm like, how in the world did we travel halfway across you know, we're in Australia. We traveled all the way here to have like an epic time. And
everybody's
pissed. And it was like, and it seemed to be a trend on a lot of our trips, you know? It's like, man, this is weird that like we have the coolest jobs. We get to go to the coolest places. Everybody's awesome. But somehow like on all of our shoots, somebody's mad at somebody, you know? And I was like, dude, what is this? And I just started feeling it, like the indicators of like, maybe it's time to like mix up the person, you know, like we got to maybe break up this crew and change things up, you know? So he started working more with the kite side of the business, and I started moving on to like working with Stefan, cause he was rising up and becoming like a really talented photo video guy. And, for whatever reason, I think
rubbed him the wrong way.
It just didn't. Yeah, it didn't sit well with. I tried to be as civil as I could, but it's just another one of those things. It's like it'll be, you know, my job is to make the best decision for the business always.
Yeah.
You know, and for the greater good of the whole team, and that, you know, it didn't include him at some point, and that just never.
Didn't sit well.
It didn't sit well. Yeah. But I mean, there's not many.
That's business, dude.
That's the job. Life. The job I chose. But I mean, I wouldn't, like I say, I wouldn't change the thing going back, because we crushed it. Yeah. We just kind of outgrew each other, you know. And you know, I mean, I think he's doing just fine now, doing whatever he's doing, and
day trade in Hawaii. I was supposed to have him on the pod last year, August 26th. He didn't end up coming on. He said he's down though.
Well, he's coming now, probably.
That's what I thought after Quinn's episode. All right. So I think before we wrap this up, we've been going for a while now, but we hit a few Patreon questions quickly, and then we'll dive into some thank yous. So got one from Cena, and she's wondering, what was your proudest moment on a wakeboard, and what is the biggest no-go as an athlete? That double flip sounds like kind of a big
That was
moment.
it. Yeah, we think we covered the best moment.
Okay. Biggest no-go as an athlete.
Biggest no-go. So don't go there.
Yeah,
don't do it. Don't go there.
Don't go. Don't do that.
Oh, that's
big no-go.
That's kind of tough. You got any no-goes? It'd be a good example.
I'll put my hot take list.
Feed off of. So it's a hot take almost.
I mean, no, but it could be. I don't know. She might be asking you as like a team manager kind of perspective.
Yeah. I don't know. Nothing's jumping out on a no-go. Probably don't go on a podcast and discuss contracts in too much detail, given my position. That was definitely
a good one. I like that one.
One thing that I was nervous about was like, you've kind of cooled off on all the questions about contracts and stuff like that. But I was like, dude, I don't know if I can. There could be some compromising.
Well, people get mistaken on I only ask the contract thing if you're out of it. Like if you're done, I'm gonna ask. But I'm not gonna
It's super interesting.
I'm not gonna ask Wes what his contract is.
Yeah,
when he's in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when he retires, you gonna ask.
So maybe that's a sensitive. That's a no-go zone for me. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you dodged the question on how much those old-time sponsors were paying. So you did a good job on that one.
It used to be good. Like I say, before the internet.
You ever cracked 6 figures from wakeboarding?
No, not from wakeboarding.
You kind of had to pause.
No. Like as a wakeboarder only, no way.
No, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, then I ended up combining a bunch of jobs, and it's like
now you're making like $1 million a year, probably.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, but after tax and then the inflation.
Well, the more you make, the more they tax. Yeah. More money, more problems.
It's tough. Yeah, it'll never be enough, no matter what.
To keep up with the Joneses, dude. All right, we got one from Rich Wheeler, and he's wondering, would love to hear about a few of the Slingshot wake products you've loved most over the years. I mean, we touched on a lot of the innovations. Yeah. So if you got
that's a pretty kind question from Rich Wheeler.
That's that's a layup
from Liquid Force, right? Isn't that Rich Wheeler? He's from Liquid.
No, I think Rich is Utah.
No, what's that guy's name?
Utah guy. Rich Jonas is the Liquid Force guy.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Rich Wheeler. Yeah.
Rich Wheeler is a Utah guy, I think.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
I know his name well. I'm just getting confused here.
I think you read Slingshot though.
I think it's the athletic brew that jogged my memory.
It's old, so it might have fermented now. It might be like quadruple alcohol.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that is a good layup, a nice lob though.
So yeah, but I mean, we covered a lot of that. Yeah. I mean, there's been some cool stuff. Probably the one thing I didn't mention earlier that I would mention now is like like all the things that Slingshot's done that have been kind of interesting or bold, or like they've been the first to do. Like another one of them was long wakeboards. Like we were the first to make a wakeboard bigger than a 150. Like as far as I'm aware. Like we made the Nomad that went up to 160, which was probably too far at that time, but it was like, that was an idea that I was like, no, that's probably crazy. And then it was like, let's try it, Actually, the idea with it was like, let's make a bigger wakeboard that's almost like a tennis racket with a bigger head, or a golf club with a bigger head. Like you're making the easy product for like the more, easy for the consumer, right? So like make it bigger, make it have a bigger sweet spot, or it could go slower, or it could get more pop off the wake because there's more surface area. And then we were like, well, yeah, let's go like extreme with it just to try it. And then it's funny because it was originally made for boat, and then now it's like it transformed. Like I saw Wes, the first time I met Wes, he was riding a Nomad prototype. It was like the first Nomad we ever built that was like a 155. Somehow he had gotten a hold of it, and it had no graphic on it. I saw him in Charleston when I was visiting Charleston before I lived there, and he lived there, and went to this little cable called Trophy Lakes where he was working.
He did a backside 720 there, just like
Yeah, he did. He did.
Toe
back 7 on a reflex. I remember the green boots, white toes, the blue and yellow board.
Oh, yeah.
The same board that Dylan rode the skinny stance on the back lip that was unusable.
Look at the memory on you.
Unusable because it was too skinny and goofy.
Absolutely unusable.
But then I went to Charleston and I saw Wes, the second guy I saw doing the skinny stance, and I was like, this is even weirder.
Damn it, he might be onto something.
Yeah, but I was like, it looks awesome. Like I can't do it, but he's so tall and he's standing so narrow, and like that's insane. But yeah, I mean, long wakeboards was probably
a good one.
The next thing.
I remember Nomad at the Eclipse Liquid Force. That was an early one too. That Daniel Grant's board.
Yeah, his board. They were the second
right after. But
yeah, we made the Nomad, and then Daniel Grant's board came. It broke the 150 barrier as well, and then at one point they went up to like 163. Or
165, I thought.
Yeah, maybe even. But I think initially, his first year, it was a 161.
Interesting.
Just so they could say they had the biggest board. Because ours is 160. So yeah, well played.
Well played.
Well played. But that's cool. And that's changed wakeboarding a lot. Yeah. Longer boards. Like how much different.
Huge.
Dude, if you go and ride a cable on even one of like a flex board of your choice, but you go ride a 140 at the cable,
I might as well be underwater.
It won't even work. It's like, dude, it's got it. 150 feels small now. It's like 56, 54. Like that's a sweet spot now.
Yeah, I like that. I like the bigger size for
sure.
So
yeah, that's a good one.
I'm proud of that.
All
right, we got 2 more quick ones here. One from Josh Boyle. He's saying, you often talked about the importance of doing tricks grabs properly in Alliance. How important do you think this is to promote the message of just having fun on the water or promoting the idea of doing tricks properly? So like either of those things. Do you think the two concepts conflict with each other or support each other?
Yeah, they probably conflict with each other. Being perfect there's definitely a line of like that you can cross where you're too judgmental and you're preventing somebody from like even wanting to get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know, Alliance was always all about everything proper. They were like the bad boys of like wakeboarding media and
the yin to the yang.
Yeah, Wakeboard Mag was like real, polished and kind of came from water skiing. And so there was definitely, I mean, I was part of that tribe of like, let's make it look cool and let's make it different. And I never skied. I suck at skiing, dude. I can't, like I started on a knee board and then straight to like learned how to ski, but never did like slalom or any other discipline. So it was like knee board, wakeboard, So it was coming from that side and not having any ski influence was like, it naturally made sense to be more on like the pushing the proper side. I identified more as a young kid with like the, Chase's crew, the new crew or Byerly and, like all the kind of real stylish, cool stuff. So I naturally pushed that way, but you can't, especially as you get, when you want the sport to be big and you want everybody to get in, you got to let a certain amount of kooks through the door and like groom them over time. Right. But you can't hate them. Like you can't hate people. You can't put so much pressure in the early days of like being perfect because people are just trying to figure it out. And if they like
get discouraged.
If they feel like they're getting like, laughed out of the park, that's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
No, there's like a proper way
you get
to
to
it,
a certain point and it was perfect when Wake Siege came out, it was the best because we didn't even know that we were doing shit wrong. Like a lot of it too.
Dylan drives down here from Canada.
Dude, we were like, who is this Wake Siege guy? And what's wrong with doing like a 45-degree angle on the rail? Like that looks sick. Like we were intentionally doing, kooky shit and didn't realize it. So it's good to have like the right amount of pressure on it. But I think, I mean, I
don't think that stuff is ever be aimed at the beginner or the
no,
that's all for
true.
the freaking
and
high level.
It's true,
shit,
and it's probably not. There's a certain level of wakeboarder where they've been in enough and they're committed enough that you can definitely give them some shit, and sometimes it just takes the right person too to give them to make the claim.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's a good question though.
Yeah.
Last one, Frank Adkins. He's wondering, why has wakeboarding hit the back burner to foiling?
Oh, it's just because I'm getting older, dude. I'm 39 this year, and I like constant progression and newness. And I did wakeboard today for a photo shoot. I can still do it.
Did you tantrum to blind?
I did.
Dude, there you go.
It was a good one too.
That's like the only trick in wakeboarding.
There was a crappy one. It was
a photo shoot.
Pretty windy and choppy in one corner, but then, dude, I got a really good one.
Indy?
Yeah, I did Indy. I switched it up later in life to tail, like later in the in the active wakeboarding. I switched from Indy to tail, but it's the best trick. It's so much fun.
Yeah, can't do it.
Yeah,
I did a cable, but that doesn't count. Right?
It's amazing, but I'm just I don't know. Foiling is fun and new, and there's a lot of growth, and it's taking me to new places that wakeboarding hasn't before, so it's just fun to continue to I don't know, explore new things,
Yeah, this guy hates foiling, so
that's all right. He'll come around.
One day.
Just like those wakeboarders that didn't like Slingshot in the beginning. He'll call me in 2 years and ask for a discount on a foil.
You got one of them foils, all right. Before we wrap it up, I mean, you want to plug anything Adventure.io or anything like that, and then obviously some thank yous or anything else you want to touch on here.
Yeah. Quick plug, Adventure.io. That's my kind of side hustle or my moonlight gig, which has been really fun over the past couple of years. We do adventure bookings. It's an app on an iPhone. So you can go in and be like, yo, I just got to Orlando and I want to go wakeboarding with a pro. And you can book Gunther Oka, or you can, you can book Sam Langley. You can book Sean Murray. You can come to Charleston and book a session with me. Or you could come on a foil trip. I'm taking a group next month to Peru to ride the longest wave in the world. We've got just Chase is coming with me, who we've talked with a bit on this podcast. So yeah, we do cool stuff with cool people. It's kind of the overall goal and mission with that business. So it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a ton, met a lot of cool people, and we work with everybody. We work with, surfers, mountain bikers, like foilers, wakeboarders. So it's kind of like taking my team manager skills to a new place where it's like suddenly I'm dealing with a bunch of guys in Hawaii that are like tow surf guys or foilers. And so it's rad because it's allowed us to expand the friend network in a whole new way that extends beyond wakeboarding, Yeah. So that's a lot of fun.
Longest wave in the world.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be behind a brand new Nautique pair?
Yeah.
G23 with a full tank of gas?
That's true. That would be even longer. This is the longest natural wave in the world. But funny, people who learn behind a boat are amazing when they get to the ocean because they've spent so much time.
It's time on the wave.
It's literally like if you're good at foiling behind the boat,
yeah,
we'll take you to the ocean and give you a longer mast and a smaller front wing. And you'll almost have the exact same experience that you would behind the boat. Like you same pressure on the nose and all, like it'll still feel familiar.
Yeah.
It'll just feel like everything on steroids,
Interesting. I guess that makes sense.
It's pretty cool, but there's something wild about like going to another country and like going into the ocean and being like, we kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like
you're familiar.
We're good at this. We're surfers now,
What do surfers think about foilers?
There's a time and a place to do it. So if it's glassy and barreling, don't go out on your foil and like ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was just curious
but generally we chase waves that are far different.
They think those are dog shit waves and you guys are skipping across the top.
Yeah. We don't need the same type of wave as a,
you just need the
shortboard
power.
surfer. Yeah. So it's relatively like they're almost different arenas of like, or different locations, you know? So
that's cool. I guess
we'd be farther out, right? We'd be on the stuff that's not really breaking. And then the surfers are at like the last, 1% of the wave after it traveled across the ocean. They're catching that last little bit, but we're farther out. So generally when we get close to them, we're done.
You're toast.
If the wave breaks, we're toast. We're trying to stay away from that break.
That's fair. Yeah,
So
the foiling does sound fun.
It's pretty cool.
But I feel like the foiling is like the Death Star pulling me in the tractor beam. I'm in the Millennium Falcon with Han Solo, and I'm like, no, I just gotta, I gotta get out of this tractor beam. I'm not ready yet. Anybody want
no pressure, no pressure.
Before we wrap this up.
Yeah, there's tons of people. It's hard to come up with them. Everybody says the same thing at the end.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Dylan Mead said nobody even listens to the outros anyways.
Really? I've listened to every one of them, dude.
There you go.
I listen to them all
Eat your heart out, Dylan.
until that little chime comes in at the end. Probably okay. Thank yous. My wife, my kids, they allow me to not allow, but it's just amazing that I can travel and do all this cool stuff and and they're cool with it and they can help make it work. And, so that's awesome. It's pretty crazy. Like my kids are already 11. Like they might listen to this podcast and be like, Dad, why didn't you talk about me more or something? Whoa, you should have said that, why'd you do this? But it's pretty funny having a couple little like groms to keep you honest, So they're amazing. And that's, as I get older actually, and the more I travel and do stuff, I'm like, this is cool, but like just being at home with them is it's getting hard to beat. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a new phase of life there, but them, everybody that's helped along the way, like the crew at Slingshot has been amazing. At Nautique has been amazing. That guy from Lightning Rod Poles that sponsored me back in the day. The guy or girl from True Aims, whoever that was, all the sponsors. So, but there's been, the tons of people, like the crew at Alliance has been amazing to help get me where I am and still in this today. My brother's been like an amazing mentor. He got out of wakeboarding like
I was gonna say, when was the last time Billy strapped up a wakeboard?
Oh, dude, 10 years probably.
10 years?
I think he was still able to do a Moby Dick, like close to kind of the end of like maybe one of his last rides. He might have done a significant trick even, but he switched to snowboarding and then surfing. But like he put like the perfect amount of like big brother pressure on me when I needed it, when I was young and like scared to like try tricks and things like that. And then, I mean, he and I were just like hours and hours just towing each other around. And be like, dude, oh, that one looked like Greg Nekrasen. Oh, well, who do I look like? Like, oh, dude, you look kind of like Kobe Mikasic when you do that one. Or we were always just like watching all the videos and then going out and jumping on the trampoline, trying the tricks. So that was special. And then even today, like he's a total whiz, like in the business world. Like he's been really successful and helped, mentor me on a lot of stuff and help me grow up in that sense. And he's a partner with me with Adventure.io, which is really cool to like work with him, on a business level too. So, everybody thanks you. I can't leave you out because dude, this is
very nice of them.
This is like I say, I've listened to every episode.
That's wild.
And it's funny that we didn't really say this in the beginning, but I've been at Hunter's house for a day and a half, or like we've seen each other, but I've been scared to even talk to him because I'm like, dude, I don't want to blow something.
Well, you don't want to tell a couple stories. And
what if
you're like, damn, that would be
what
great.
if the funniest thing that happens between us happens before we do the podcast? So
it's a fair point.
We've been kind of like dodging each other around the house to make sure we could, do this,
catch up, and that was it,
and do it well. But dude, it's rad. It's funny in a world where like even 15 seconds of media on your phone is almost too long. Yeah. It's funny that you can, at the same time, a podcast is like there was something about audiobooks the other day. It was like, this is the only product that you can consume while you do your entire life, like daily. True. Like everybody has an AirPod in most of the day. Like it's almost, I'm worried. I'm like, some people said that this is going to give me brain cancer.
Well, I stay corded. You got to go back to the corded.
Yeah. See, I've done no research, but I've heard a couple of people say it. I'm like,
we don't need to do research to back up any of our, don't let facts get in the way of this good narrative.
But anyways, like I said, before we did it, I was like, dude, I love this one's probably going to be long, but I'm like, I love long podcasts because I got to drive from Charleston to Orlando pretty often, or more so I go to Ocala now for like my wife and kids and their sports. But I spend so much time driving something like my truck or a boat or a lawnmower. And it's like, dude, when you go to bi-weekly or once every 2 weeks, I'm like, damn, I got to get into something else.
We're firing her back up right after this. So
I'm excited. When it goes back to weekly, I'm just like, dude, there's my, my groove. And I've shared it with so many people because it's just like, it's so fun to like relive some of this older stuff and hear these stories. And like, you're probably becoming the most educated person in wakeboarding
by accident,
dude. Yeah. But it's amazing.
No, it's probably not
everybody needed this. And it's like, I mean, we're, doing a new team video, partially, like, I'm not going to say it all because we definitely have known we need to do that. But hearing you push, we're like, he's right. Let's just we're going, dude. So it's like,
we love that.
It's good because like I feel like people are motivated and they're feeling connected again. And
that's the goal. That's literally the goal right there. It's
so much fun to like
good to
hear people talk about wakeboarding when it's been our whole lives.
Yeah. Right. It's been a lot of people's lives.
It's pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't remember the shit I did when I was 10 and younger, but 11, I learned to wakeboard, and
that's when it all started.
That's pretty much what I've been doing.
Well, yeah. Thank you for coming on. It's awesome. I've been looking forward to this one for 2 years now, pretty much since the start. And thank you for supporting the podcast. Obviously, everybody else who supports it on the Patreon as well. But Slingshot, come in. We've got a segment. It's very exciting.
There's no way we could not.
Awesome.
I've been saying it. It was like every brand needs to support this podcast. Like this is every brand, every person. It's like, this is what we we appreciate you doing it.
It's good to hear. I'm glad people are.
Oh, it's so, dude. It's and then now you got like you're building a time capsule of wakeboarding.
Yeah, that's it. Kind of again by accident, right? It just kind of shit flies up on the wall.
Freaking
and
awesome.
Podcasts come out.
It's like the perfect like testament to anybody that like wants to do something but like hasn't pulled the trigger.
Just do
like
it.
like you've talked about it. You're like, I just didn't know what I was doing, but I did it.
Yeah.
And now you've got these badass mics and somebody donated lights to like
Chase
everything's
Hefner, thank you.
just coming together.
Yeah.
Just because people need entertainment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
that's a good
we
way to wrap
appreciate
up.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you a lot, Jeff. And thank you to everybody who's tuning in.
Yeah.
Thank you to all the Patreon members. I can't thank everybody on there enough. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.